Jodi Arias, remember her? In the early summer of 2008, the mortgage crisis in the U.S. loomed large. Barack Obama was campaigning for the presidential election in the fall. The world was looking forward to the Summer Olympics in Beijing, and a horrifying crime was going down in the Phoenix suburb of Mesa, Arizona. Travis Alexander, a 30-year-old Mormon motivational speaker of sorts, will be found 5 days after his murder by his friends and roommates in a scene that looked like something straight out of a slasher flick. Blood was splattered on the walls of the bathroom where Travis's body was found, along the sink, mirror, and tiled floors. He'd been stabbed nearly 30 times, his throat slit, and he'd been shot in the head. And his friends and family immediately pointed their fingers at the one person who they all thought was most likely responsible, Jodi Arias, a slightly built, attractive woman with no criminal record. Someone who did not look like the person most would connect with Travis's brutal crime scene. She was the woman Travis had been dating off and on for the better part of the past year and a half. An odd woman once you looked into their relationship, a woman who'd once slept under Travis's Christmas tree after he told her she couldn't sleep over at his house, a woman who'd snuck into his house through the doggy door after they'd broken up and crawled naked into his bed, a woman who they all suspected had slashed all 4 of his tires twice when he'd once started dating someone else. For over a year and a half, Travis and Jodi had been involved in a highly toxic, sex-crazed, torrid romance after meeting at a Las Vegas MLM conference in September of 2006. And while Jodi's jealous, suspicious, and sometimes downright crazy behavior towards Travis set off a lot of alarm bells for his friends, and while Travis seemed to understand how unhealthy his relationship with Jodi was, he would never totally break it off with her. He just seemed to have liked the sex too much, so he kept inviting her back in no matter what she did. And in the end, he did that too many times. In the last days of May 2008, Jodi started putting together a plan to kill him. Or did she? Or was she framed? Today on Timesuck, I hope to prove to you that Jodi Arias is completely innocent. Her trial for Travis's murder would captivate a nation that had just come off the Casey Anthony trial. Recordings of phone sex were played in court. Nude graphic sex pics were shown. Jodi Arias herself testified for 18 days. She contradicted herself numerous times. She told crazy lies. She gave a highly implausible story to investigators about who really killed Travis, but does that mean that she killed him? No, but I think I know who did. This week, we get to the real bottom of this highly sensationalized murder mystery on a true crime, Mormon as heck, gosh dang, play with fire too many times and you're gonna get burned edition of Timesuck.
This is Michael McDonald and you're listening to Timesuck.
You're listening to Timesuck.
Happy Monday, meat sacks. Work can wait. I'm Dan Cummins, a master sucker, head attorney for Jodi Arias' appeals team, and you are listening to Timesuck. Hail Nimrod, help me convince others of the truth. Lucifina, please protect Jodi. Bojangles give her strength and soothe her innocent soul. Triple M. And JK, oh my heck, get the flip out of here. Totally kidding about Jodi Arias being innocent. She is guilty as fuck. Do you think I'd lost it? More than normal. Probably lost some new listeners with that opening nonsense. Oh well. Worth it for me. Jodi Arias is an absolute maniac, and I was captivated by her story this week. I forgot how crazy and also how relatable her story is. What a cautionary tale. Couple quick announcements, and we'll get right to it. Symphony of Insanity stand-up comedy tour almost here. I can't believe I am about to return to stand-up. Go to dancummins.tv to get tickets to Tacoma, Loveland, Colorado, Denver, San Francisco, Portland, so many more cities. Tour starts up in August. A reissue of some old favorites in the store at badmagicmerch.com right now. Triple M enamel pin, the Richard Ramirez pen, a pin of me, Lindsay, the original challenge coin, the most recent challenge coin, some patches, a lot of fun collectibles back in the shop. And that's it for announcements. Flew through them this week. Let's get into today's tale. I hope you like it as much as I do. I hope it grabs you like it grabbed me. The Provo float. Remember that term. Remember soaking. Get ready to learn about a lot of craziness. Let's get into it. Travis Alexander and Jodi Arias. It's so odd, really, that so many of us even know their names. After all, Jodi was not a serial killer. She didn't have a particularly horrific childhood. Actually, it was her victim, Travis, who had a childhood more on par with a lot of the serial killers we've covered here. Their story is a tale of a murderer and a victim who dated, a random crime of passion, and that story plays out all the time, sadly. More than 2,000 people killed by domestic violence-related shootings alone in 2020 in just the United States. More than 2,000, just last year. In only one country. And that's only counting domestic violence murders where a gun is involved. And I can't name a single one of 2020's victims, but I do know the name Jodi Arias, and I bet you do too. So what made this case such a media sensation? Sex mostly, and a brutal killing committed by an attractive murderer. Made it feel a bit more like a Hollywood drama than real life. Jodi and Travis's relationship was defined by sex, so much sex. And not vanilla sex, hardcore porno-type sex being committed by two Mormons, which made it that much more interesting. Late-night phone sex sessions, one of which was recorded and played in court. A lot of sex pics. But sex alone didn't make this case memorable. I think it was just so relatable. Much more relatable to a wider swath of America than most domestic violence killings. Neither Travis nor Jodi were messed up on meth or some other drugs. They weren't living in the wrong part of town. Their lives weren't in some free fall, downward spiral. They didn't have lengthy criminal records. There was no history of physical abuse in their relationship, despite what Jodi would allege at her trial. They were two attractive Mormons who seemed at quick glance to be living pretty normal lives. Travis in particular seemed to be doing great. They looked like a couple out of an Olive Garden commercial. Or like they could be J.C. Penney models. Attractive but average. Like they could be your neighbor. They could be your suburban neighbor. On the surface, they seem so wholesome. The last two people you'd expect to be involved on either end of such a gruesome murder like this. And being consumed by sex behind closed doors, I think that made them even more relatable. So very American to try and seem pure and proper on the outside, but be a freak behind closed doors. I think so many people saw elements of themselves in this story. Travis came across as a guy who wanted to marry the quote-unquote good girl, who also wanted to fuck the brains out of the quote-unquote bad girl. He comes across, honestly, like a bit of a sneaky ass in much of today's tale, but a relatable sneaky ass, a player, a heartbreaker, someone toying with the girl's emotions, a girl who wants him to marry her, but all he wants from her is sex. I've listened to a lot of girls complain about this guy. I've been a version of this guy in moments in my past I'm not super proud of, when I've let my dick do too much of the decision-making in my life. I've known a lot of guys like this. Very relatable. And Jodi comes across as the psycho ex-girlfriend I've heard so many guys complain about dating. Girls they want to break up with, but the sex is just so good, so intense. I've definitely dated that girl a couple times. I think a lot of people heard this case and just thought, oh shit, that could have been me. My relationship could have ended like that. I mean, have you ever tried to make an ex jealous or stalk them on social media, maybe driven by their house? Not saying you took it to Jodi's level, but many of us have behaved in ways we're not proud of in toxic relationships that bring out the worst in us. And if you haven't, you probably know someone who has. You've known someone who's a little too clingy, who won't leave their boyfriend alone, someone who gets jealous and possessive and acts inappropriately in front of their boyfriend's friends, maybe being too overtly sexual or hitting on them in a way of trying to inspire jealousy. The Arias trial put the morality of friends with benefits into question as well, made it a popular subject of national debate. Is it okay to just want to fuck someone and not ever see them as anything more than a booty call? Was Jodi, while not right to have murdered Travis, right to feel wronged by him? Had she been the victimized and sexually exploited, by a man who was jealous when she dated other men but wouldn't call her his girlfriend? Did he push her too far? I think today's story serves as a good reminder to not toy with someone's emotions when you're looking for an easy hookup. Make sure you're on the same page. I think it's a reminder that what may be just fun and carefree sex for you might not be that at all for whomever you're fucking. And you might be inviting a lot more crazy into your life than you are prepared to handle, all in the name of getting laid. As so many of these toxic relationships begin, Jodi and Travis's initial meeting was marked by a whirlwind of emotions and obsession. They met at an MLM convention in Las Vegas in September of 2006. Travis quickly invited Jodi to be his guest to the company's formal dinner. And for the next couple of months, for the most part, everything seemed to be going great. In an email to a friend, Travis wrote about how deeply he cared for Jodi. I went from intrigued by her, to interested in her, to caring about her deeply, to realizing how lucky I would be to have her as part of my life forever. She is amazing. It is not hard to see that whoever scores Jodi, whether it be me or someone else, is going to win the wife lotto, Alexander said in that email. But despite her being so amazing, he would never, ever really commit to Jodi. His religion may be partly to blame here. While Travis was a normal guy with a normal, healthy libido, the Mormon church that was such an important part of his life made him feel like that was abnormal. In fact, when Travis had confessed to having a sexual relationship with a girlfriend, Deanna, prior to meeting Jodi, he'd been barred from the temple for a year, reinforcing a fear that having premarital sex, if people found out about it, would oust him from his community, a community that was very important to him. Important not only for spiritual reasons, but for his financial future, because his MLM interests were tied to it. We'll get into that later. Travis felt pressure to keep his sexual life a secret, and also pressure to feel ashamed of it, and pressure to get married, but only to a good, virginal Mormon girl. He bought into a long-standing and destructive cultural norm psychologists call the Madonna whore complex, though Travis may not have thought about it in such explicit terms. This complex would help define his feelings towards Jodi, it appears. This complex describes the idea that for many men, romantically, women are either Madonnas, pure and chaste, or sex-crazed whores. The founder of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, wrote about it way back in the early 1900s. He wrote that men with this complex saw women as either saints or prostitutes, loving the first, desiring the second, never intertwining both. Basically, this means that people who think like this have the girl they take home and introduce to the family, and then some other girl they actually have fun with. The girl they take home is someone who that they may not feel sexually captivated by, they don't likely feel sexually captivated by, but they think she has the proper morals, someone who will reflect on them publicly. While the girl they have fun with, she's their dirty little secret. She's sexually intense, but fills them with guilt and shame, someone who may embarrass them with her sexuality in front of others. So fucking stupid. Don't marry the girl you have fun with. What are you trying to do? Have a fun, sexually satisfied life, you idiot? Obviously, there are a lot of problems with this thinking. Leads to a lot of toxic relationships. Has led to a lot of divorces. As Freud said, where such men love, they have no desire. And where they desire, they cannot love. So ridiculous. This complex has led to people using other people just for sex and emotionally neglecting their sexual partners. Also, for the girls that you take home, these women are never seen as adults with sexual agency and desires, so it can be hard and sometimes met with disgust for them to communicate their sexual desires to their partners. And for the person sleeping with both the Madonna and the whore, it leads to an alienating experience of compartmentalizing your sex life, leads to feelings of guilt, inadequacy, poor communication. This belief system is truly not good for anyone. Everyone's getting fucked in this situation. Just not getting fucked like they should. An aspect of this complex is referenced in the Rick James song, Super Freak, actually. Never really thought about it before, but it was lined, "She's a very kinky girl, the kind you don't take home to mother." It's really fucked up when you think about it. Madonna whore complexes are particularly rampant in subcultures with strong beliefs against sex before marriage, like Mormonism. Because sex before marriage is considered a sin, the women who have sex before marriage are seen by their partners as sinners and unworthy of marriage, which is a wee bit hypocritical because it takes two to tango. The LDS faith's view of premarital sex cast a long shadow over Travis and Jodi's relationship. Before we jump into the timeline, it is worth examining real quick. So what is the Mormon law regarding sex before marriage? Appropriately, it's called the law of chastity, and it's pretty clear regarding what is okay and what is not. It reads, "Before marriage, do not do anything to arouse the powerful emotions that must be expressed only in marriage. Do not participate in passionate kissing, lie on top of another person, or touch the private, sacred parts of another person's body with or without clothing. Do not allow anyone to do that with you. Do not arouse those emotions in your own body." This can be found in chapter 39 in the Book of Mormon. No dry humping even, not technically. My first girlfriend, who was real Mormon, I don't think she read all of chapter 39. My God, did she love to aggressively dry hump. Too aggressive. Literally bruised the tip of my dick one time. But Travis, like many other unmarried and horny Mormons, he looked for ways to get around this Mormon sexual law. He'd introduced Jodi to some pretty interesting, this doesn't really count, sexual loopholes that make zero sense and are actually really creepy when you think about them, but apparently pretty common in certain Mormon circles, before just saying fuck it and then doing whatever. He performed oral sex on Jodi the first time they hooked up. Doesn't really count. It's just some mouth hugging. And the two of them often did what's colloquially referred to as the Provo float, Provo float's coming up later. There's a couple Provo terms. This is the Provo push, which is just an intense form of, dry humping, of grinding before having sex. So that's how my dick got bruised. Some hardcore Provo pushing. They also did some other shit with some pretty funny names. We'll talk about in the timeline. Some of the hardest I've laughed with some Timesuck research in quite a while. And then once Jodi was baptized into the LDS, they started having regular old sex. And then because of that old Madonna whore complex, the more they had sex, the less it seems Travis viewed Jodi as a potential and respectable future spouse. They'd break up, then keep sleeping together, then get back together, then break up again, then keep sleeping together. The more they slept together, the dirtier the sex got, the less Travis seemed to respect her, and the chance of them ever getting married grew slimmer and slimmer, and that drove Jodi crazy. She was being used by a man she didn't want to marry, she was used by a man she did want to marry who didn't want to marry her. She was doing whatever he asked, and it still wasn't enough. Actually pushed him farther away. Also, important to point out, she was fucking nuts. She was nuts long before Travis and her started doing some creepy, like weird sex stuff, and before she started doing creepy, crazy, girlfriend shit. She'd follow Travis to the bathroom, stand outside the door, or eavesdrop on his conversations. She'd grab his cell phone, she'd go through it, she'd sneak onto his computer, go through his emails, social media messages. She did a whole bunch of red flag shit. Travis caught her multiple times. He'd be furious. He'd tell her to get out of his life. But then later, he'd get horny and call her up, usually in the middle of the night. And she'd answer. And the sex was so good. Travis wanted to keep having sex with her so badly, no matter what line she crossed, he would just never completely kick her out of his life. And that good sex ended up costing him his life. Not victim blaming. He did not deserve to be murdered, but man, he played a dangerous game with someone he was all too aware was not incredibly stable for a long time, as you'll soon see. Now let's get into it in this week's Timesuck Timeline, where we will examine the lives of both Travis and Jodi from birth until death in Travis's case, and from birth until now in Jodi's, and of course how those lives intersected into a sexual relationship that led to a murder, and also expose some very interesting religious sexual views in a sensational trial that would captivate a nation.
Strap on those boots, soldier. We're marching down a Timesuck timeline.
On July 28, 1977, Travis Victor Alexander is born, the first child of Gary David Alexander and Pamela Elizabeth Morgan Alexander. Pamela was Gary's third wife. She was 24. Gary was 29, with 2 children from a previous marriage. When their beautiful green-eyed boy arrived, joining half-brothers Gary and Greg. Pam and Gary Alexander would go on to have 2 daughters, Samantha and Tanisha. The family lived in Riverside, California, large inland area in Southern California, about 60 miles east of Los Angeles, with the reputation of being one of the nation's most polluted smog belt communities. Despite the marriage and the children, it wasn't one big happy family. Far from it. Travis's parents were both meth addicts, self-absorbed, controlled by their addictions. In the self-help memoir Travis was in the process of writing at the time of his death, titled Raising You, he described his father as a person who was rarely around and who eventually abandoned the family. You can find a lot of excerpts from this book if you're curious, a book that was never to be completed, on a blog Travis wrote on that is still available, travisalexander.blogspot.com. Travis described his mother as a woman who'd started a family way too young. She couldn't even meet her children's most basic needs. The kids had no one to cook them a hot meal, do the laundry, clean the house, shop for food, help with hygiene, care for them when they were sick. Pam would go on week-long drug benders, then crash in bed for days, beat the kids if they bothered her. Travis described beatings at the hand of his mother, who would violently go after any child who waked her up when she was sleeping off a bender. During these beatings, he mastered a way of twisting his body so he could deflect the blows to less sensitive parts of his body, such as his back and arms. It hurt less, and also the bruises could be hidden from school teachers and other concerned adults. Then there was verbal abuse. Pam frequently told her kids how miserable, how worthless they were, complained about how they'd ruined, her life. Gary and Pam also fought explosively. He wasn't any better. Pam once emptied a revolver into Gary's car. Holy shit. In retaliation, Gary chopped up Pam's belongings with an axe. So Travis was exposed to what a very toxic relationship looked like at a young age, to what, a jealous and violent partner looked like. Travis and his sisters were left to fend for themselves, with Travis as the oldest taking on the role of caretaker. They'd eat anything that was edible, moldy bread, whatever they could find in the fridge. Travis would later recall being upset that he couldn't eat the canned foods in the cupboard because he didn't know how to use a can opener. The house was filthy. He would write, "My sisters and I found some amusement in the fact that an entire colony of albino roaches had broken out, so that the house looked like a bunch of moving salt and pepper crawling on everything." Travis would later write, "To this day, I have only one phobia, roaches. There was nothing more disgusting to me than to wake up to feel roaches crawling on my body." So far from ideal childhood. Neither of Travis's parents worked. The family eventually were evicted from their house. They moved to a beat-up camper shell in an aunt's backyard. The shell was 4 feet tall by 5 feet wide by 6 feet long. It would house 4 people. The family, minus Travis's dad, he'd have to sleep somewhere else, anywhere else, or he'd just be off, gone. There wasn't a shower. They'd go days without washing. As can be expected, Travis wasn't very popular at school. The poor kid, literally and figuratively, was mocked for his appearance, but it wasn't anything like the abuse he'd endured at home, so he didn't really mind. He did start to find comfort in spiritual thoughts. His parents weren't religious, but other family members were, and he started believing in God. He's about 6 when he spent an entire day pleading with God out loud, asking for his grandma to come take him for the weekend. His mom woke up, beat him, went back to sleep. He kept pleading, sometimes screaming for God. Sure enough, his grandma came, picked him up. And that was how Travis came to have faith in God. And by the age of 10, he decided to run away. He didn't run very far. He ran just a few blocks to his paternal grandparents' house, Jim and Norma Jean Sarvey. He walked in, stood in the middle of the living room, and announced, "I'm going to live with you now." And his grandma, he called her Mum, responded to the call and took him in. She took in his siblings as well and raised her grandchildren as her children. His parents would never really be in the picture anymore during his childhood. She gave Travis the love and security that he craved. She was also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and she introduced Travis to Mormonism, and he loved it. He had a stable family. He had God. Life was good. As he got older, Travis settled into a normal and wholesome life with his grandparents. He attended Rubidoux High School in Jurupa Valley, a city of just over 100,000 in the northwest corner of Riverside County, California. By around the age of 16, he felt like he'd gotten over most of his early childhood troubles. He'd become a confident and self-assured young man. The nightmare of roach-filled evenings was over. Backing up now to 3 years after Travis was born, Jodi Arias is born July 9th, 1980, in Salinas, California, to Bill and Sandra Arias. She'd have just about the opposite childhood as Travis. Her dad, Bill, tall, muscular man with a well-trimmed mustache, a sweet stash, and a beard who took pride in his physical physique. He was an aspiring restaurateur. Sandra was a homemaker. Salinas was a pretty ideal place to grow up. Pretty affluent community overall. One of the most expensive cities to buy a house in the nation, actually. The median home price of a home back in 2018 was $550,000. Known for its flowers, vineyards, and temperate climate, Salinas is in the middle of the California coast, about 8 miles inland from the Pacific Ocean, 106 miles south of San Francisco, just 19 miles from Monterey. As a child, Jodi attended Los Padres Elementary School on John Street. She's a happy kid with a wide circle of friends. She loved art, especially drawing and coloring, was happiest when she was near a pile of Crayola crayons and some pieces of blank paper. Around the age of 10, she took on photography as a hobby, something you don't do in the 90s if you're a poor kid. Jodi had 2 younger brothers, Carl and Joey, and a younger sister, Angela. She also had an older half-sister from her dad's first marriage. Years later, Jodi would say she was subjected to disciplinary beatings from both her mom and dad, claiming her mom hit her with a wooden spoon she carried with her in her purse, and that her dad used a belt to dole out punishments. No one else has really substantiated these claims. What people have said is that Sandy and Bill were particularly strict with their daughter from a young age. And while some could interpret this as abuse, I'm not going to, because Jodi's saying this, and she will prove herself over and over to be a manipulative liar, almost on par with Casey Anthony. I'm guessing she's exaggerating at the very least. Also in the 90s, using a belt, wooden spoon, that was more common than it is now. I watched her in an interview say she had an idyllic childhood, and others I've watched mention her parents have had nothing but good things to say about them and her family. When Jodi was around 11, around 1991, the Ariases moved just over 150 miles up the California coast to Santa Maria, another affluent community surrounded by a lot of wineries. A city of about 100,000 where Bill had bought a steakhouse called the Branding Iron. Jodi seemed to adjust well to her new surroundings, quickly developing a tight circle of 6 or 7 girlfriends and taking to middle school easily. She attended the 8th grade at Orcutt Junior High School. Things seemed to be going really well, but trouble was on the horizon for the Arias family. About 4 years after the family moved to Santa Maria, when Jodi was about 15, her mom found something suspicious. Sandra discovered that a piece of her Tupperware was missing from the kitchen. Looking for it, she then discovered that Jodi had taken the container to the roof of the house where she was using it to grow, you guys, marijuana with a friend. The devil's lettuce! Oh my God! If they smoked that stuff, they might enjoy music a bit more or ponder life's real mysteries. Sandy and Bill, they decided to call the sheriff's office to turn their daughter in, hoping the experience will scare her straight. It seems a bit extreme, but whatever, maybe not the craziest parenting move. My wife, Lindsay's mom, had the cops called on her as a teen when she acted out and deserved. She was a naughty little rascal. Part of what I love about her. She's got some Lucifine in her. The cops came over, sternly lectured Jodi and a friend, warning them they could end up in juvie. And Jodi feels betrayed. Up until this point, she had not been a rebellious teen, but the overkill response made her angry enough to start acting out, or so she would say, So it seems to have backfired. After this pot incident, Jodi grew distant and paranoid. Her parents will later substantiate this. She began claiming that her parents would constantly search her room. She never really trusted them after this. And maybe they had good reason not to trust her, after this, or even before this. She doesn't seem like a trustworthy person at all. Jodi lied to her parents frequently. Occasionally, her parents will later say Jodi was physically violent, especially towards her mom. There was an incident where she got so mad at her mom, she kicked her during a family dinner. Another time, Bill shoved Jodi into a wall, and her mom didn't intervene after the two of them got into it. A few semi-credible sources say she once punched her mom in the face. She's becoming a pretty rebellious teen. It was getting to be a tense situation in the Arias household. Around the same time in early 1995, making things even more complicated, Jodi's parents decided to move again, around 500 miles further north to Wairika, California, near Mount Shasta and the Oregon border. This is another big blow to Jodi. First they called the cops on her, now they're ripping her away from her friends. Jodi was convinced that the move was intended to punish her. Wairika is a lot smaller, a lot less affluent than either Salinas or Santa Maria, just under 8,000 people, a lot more white. 5% white compared to 75%, 5% Latino, compared to 75% Latino in Salinas and 70% Latino in Santa Maria. So Jodi, roughly half Mexican heritage-wise, felt like it was just tougher to be the new kid here, that she stood out more in a way that she didn't like. She began ninth grade in Wairika, at Wairika Union High School, despite her frustrations. People who knew her during this time will later pretty much just have nice things to say about her. They saw her as a good girl, kind and caring. Not sure what her parents did here, but there is a restaurant there also called the Branding Iron Family Steakhouse. So might be coincidence. Or maybe Bill was running that steakhouse now. So what was Travis up to during this time? Travis graduated from high school in the spring of 95, worked a string of jobs to save money for a church mission. The following year, he was called to serve in the Colorado Denver South Mission. Part of his 2-year undertaking was volunteering to help the homeless in and around Denver. Great place for a mission. I love Denver. Very cool city, so much sunshine, so many cool businesses, solid local vibe. As someone who had spent a good deal of his life without essentials, Travis knew firsthand the plight of the people his mission was serving, and the church was super happy with how he handled himself. He spent countless days handing out care packages to the less fortunate that contained food items, essential hygiene products, and on each bag, this is super sweet, he would write a personalized note. Back to Jodi now. In the summer of 95, between her freshman and sophomore years of high school, Jodi meets her first serious boyfriend, a guy 3 years older than her named Bobby. Oh, Bobby. She met Bobby at a state fair. Bobby was dressed in an 18th century long black suit and used crutches as a prop for his goth outfit. So mysterious and cool. That night, he invited Jodi to ride with him on the Zipper. In the beginning, they were just friends. He already had a girlfriend, so nothing happened until they broke up. And then Bobby and Jodi started dating. Bobby had lots of time to spend on her. He had plenty of time since he just graduated from high school but was unemployed. He regularly met Jodi near the high school gates where they would just take walks, hold hands, I'm sure do other stuff. And Bobby sounds like a character. He really wanted to be an actor, but also really wanted to hunt vampires. Not kidding. He wanted to go to San Francisco to find vampires. He was convinced a coven of vampires were living in the area. Sounds like he watched The Lost Boys too many times and forgot it was a made-up story. Jodi really latched on to Bobby. His interests became her interests. His friends became her friends, a pattern she will repeat later. Jodi was also, outside of Bobby the vampire hunter, miserable in Wairika. She wrote a letter to a friend on September 16th, 1995, saying, "My dearest Patricia, I miss you so much. Nobody up here could ever take your place. No one up here listens like you do. Everyone here is pretty much the same as down there, except for one thing. I don't feel like I belong. I can't even join in the conversation because I don't know what they're talking about. They'll say something to me like, 'Can you believe so-and-so's going with so-and-so? And they look so funny together.' And I'll be like, 'No, I don't even know who the hell they are. So it doesn't matter to me.' And that brings up another complaint. The only thing people do around here, I figured out, two different groups of types of people, getting stoned, the stoners, and the gossips, preppy snobs." Holy shit, that letter is so high school and so 90s. Art seemed to be Jodi's one bright spot. She bought a set of oil paints and was determined to improve her talents. I've seen some of her work in documentaries, and she is actually a pretty talented artist. Meanwhile, her relationship with her parents is getting worse. Now that she's in high school, she wants more freedom. While other freshmen and sophomores are allowed to stay out until 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, maybe later, she has a dinner hour curfew of 6 p.m. Can't go out after that. That does seem a bit strict. Her father even resorted to disconnecting the car battery to keep her home, which was successful short-term because she didn't know how car batteries worked. And that seems a bit crazy. But again, I don't know how rebellious Jodi was being at this time. It might have been warranted. Maybe Bill had reason to worry about what she was doing. In the final quarter of 10th grade, maybe to get her away from what they saw as bad influences, Jodi's parents arranged for her to take part in a cultural exchange program in Costa Rica to learn Spanish. And this backfires in their eyes. In no time at all, Jodi is dating the son of the host family, Victor, who's also 16. Bobby the vampire slayer is fucking out! Bye-bye, Bobby. Go grab some wooden stakes and take out your heartache on some undead creatures of the night. or dress up in some more goth clothes and ride the zipper with someone else. Jodi celebrated her 17th birthday in Costa Rica with Victor. When she returned home, the two corresponded by mail. Jodi was now on the end of receiving long romantic letters written in Spanish. Before long, Victor travels to the States for a month-long visit, 2 weeks of which he stays with Jodi and her family. It was then he gives her a promise ring to express his romantic devotion to her. Oh, young love. Promise rings. Lucifina thinks that's pretty cute. Jodi was also in love, and she gives him a promise back. She promises to move to Costa Rica, where she will live, and they will get married, and they will start a family together. Unfortunately for Travis Alexander, this will not happen. Let's talk about Travis again. July 28th, 1997 will be Travis's 20th birthday. Also be a day of some bad news. His father, Gary, dies in a motorcycle crash at the age of 49. Gary had been clean for more than a year when he died, and by then, Travis's mother had also stopped doing drugs and been trying to get her life together. Both were a bit back in the picture with Travis now. A few months later, Jodi breaks up with Victor over the phone during October of her junior year. Not sure exactly what led to this, and it probably doesn't really matter. Oh, the capricious heart of a high schooler, right? One day you're promising your undying love to someone. The next, you're totally over them and moving your life in an entirely new direction. By the end of 11th grade, Jodi was clearly floundering. Small town and her rigid, controlling parents were weighing on her. Her grades has fallen. Started looking for ways out of town. And then Bobby the Vampire Slayer comes back in. And they decide to give the relationship another try. Jodi, influenced somewhat by Bobby perhaps, now makes up her mind that she's going to drop out of high school when her junior year is over in May. She's already getting a lot of D's and F's, doesn't want to live with her controlling parents a second longer. She will drop out. In the summer of 1998, she turns 18, that July 9th, and she moves out. And then she takes a series of waitressing jobs while BVS gets a job bussing tables. Guess those Bay Area vampires will just have to wait. They get to live a few more days. Between them, they make enough to make ends meet, barely, living with Bobby the Vampire Slayer's adoptive grandparents. At first, things seem to go well until Jodi claims she discovers that Bobby is being unfaithful. According to Jodi, Bobby the Vampire Slayer is exchanging affectionate emails with another girl, which Jodi saw on his Hotmail account when they were checking their emails on a computer in the library. When he got up to use the bathroom, she just started looking through his emails like a fucking psycho. And then, told him that she was going to work. She then ditched Bobby, went back to the library, got back on his account, printed the letters or emails, called in sick to work, then went to confront him. This kind of behavior does not often lead to good, stable relationships. The two now date off and on for a little while until Bobby packs up and relocates to Medford, Oregon. He gets the fuck out, where he will live with a roommate named Matt. Guess he decided those San Francisco vampires were just too powerful to confront for the time being. Maybe Matt was another vampire hunter, and they could train together in Medford, sharpen their stakes and skills, maybe grow some garlic and whatnot. Jodi now goes back, moves to Santa Maria to live with an old friend. Meanwhile, Travis also switching up his living situation. In 1998, around the age of 21, Travis returns from his Denver mission, settles back into California, sharing a home with some other single Mormon dudes back in Riverside. Heck yeah! Gosh dang, guys! Let's live it up. Let's get 2-liter bottles of caffeine-free Coke and a couple bags of Funyuns. Throw on some Edited for Radio, Dr. Dre, the Chronic CD. Maybe talk about lightly kissing some ladies. Oh my gosh. I hear Jared has been Provo pushing with someone. Travis joins the Riverside Singles Ward of the LDS, where everyone calls him by his self-proclaimed nickname of T-Dog. Nice. Oh, flip yeah. In the LDS Church, a ward is a local congregation presided over by a bishop. Depending on the neighborhood, a ward can have anywhere between 25 to 500 active members who live in a certain radius around a meeting house, based on how close to other wards it is, the size of the radius. In places where there's a high population of single adults, single wards house and advise members between the age of 18 and 30. From what I understand, based on reading off the church's website, once you're 31, if you're still not on the path to marriage, you move on from the young singles ward to the gosh dang, what's wrong with your ding-a-ling? Don't you want to put it in a wife hole ward? Or maybe that next ward is called a singles adult ward instead of just a young single adult ward, or that. And actually, before we move on, the cutoff for that ward is 45. And if you're single at 46, well, head on over to Facebook, you unfuckable bridge troll. That seems to be the kind of vibe, by the looks of it. Not a top church priority to get you married anymore. At the young singles ward, Travis makes a lot of friends. Among them, a young Mormon woman named Deanna Reed. They meet in 1998 when Travis is on a date with a roommate. The girls in Deanna's house would hang out with the guys in Travis's house, and they'd all, drink caffeine-free Coke and become friends. Travis and Deanna had already known each other for more than a year when they began dating in the spring of 2000. Now let's switch back to Jodi. Jodi arrived back in Santa Maria in the summer of 1999. She's 19 now. She stays there through Christmas. She finds a job waitressing at a local Applebee's and soon becomes quite lonely. She is drifting. She doesn't know what the hell to do with her life. She decides that she wants Bobby the Vampire Slayer back. Oh, hell yeah. Santa Maria was 10 hours from Medford, Oregon, but she made her way to his doorstep with a bag full of groceries left anonymously for him to find. She drove 10 hours unannounced. What the fuck? Jodi claimed Bobby instantly knew the care package was from her, called her to thank her, but Bobby's friends saw Jodi's mysterious delivery as a pretty creepy move. And I agree. You drive 10 hours anonymously to leave a bag of groceries on your ex-boyfriend's door? That is some crazy ex-girlfriend shit. I mean, sometimes I'm sure that kind of big gesture can lead to a quality reconciliation. Sometimes romantic. But I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, it's just crazy. I've talked about it before at some point, but a girl I dated for 9 months in college, from like the end of my freshman year to halfway through my sophomore year, one day she just brought me lunch to a pizza place I worked at during my junior year. We had not been talking. I did not find this romantic. I found it kind of scary and creepy. I'd made it very clear after a couple of weird things she'd done previously, shortly after we broke up, that we were never, ever, ever, ever getting back together. I did not eat that lunch. Bobby the Vampire Slayer, he did eat the groceries. This worked for him, and now they're back together. Following the first visit, she makes a drive to Medford on numerous following weekends. That is, man, a 20-hour round trip to hang out some more with them. But Jodi will not remain satisfied with BVS for long. In January of 2000, Jodi confides her dissatisfaction with Bobby to friends who suggest she make a list of pros and cons to see if the relationship is worth saving. She comes up with 3 pros right off the bat. Made me feel beautiful. Could make me laugh. Would scrape the ice off my car in winter while I stayed inside and warmed up. Then she moved over to the cons column. Won't shut up about hunting vampires. Watches Lost Boys too much. Continually points out what characters are doing right or wrong regarding fighting vampires for a whole movie. Has the walls of his room completely covered in posters of Sarah Michelle Gellar from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and constantly tells me if he ever meets her, I'm out. JK. No, her real complaints are unsympathetic when I need a shoulder to cry on. Tells me to fuck off on a weekly basis. Trashes my name to anybody who will listen. Tells me he loves me, but takes it back minutes later. Trashes my family and my friends. My God. If half of that is true, why in the hell was she driving to Medford to see him? I do wonder if it was true. She will reveal herself during her trial as someone who loves to lie to get people to feel sorry for her. Jodi Arias loves sympathy and is incredibly manipulative. She accused Bobby of flirting with other girls on the party line, the internet, at parties and bars, claimed he had called her the worst, filthiest, most unimaginable names in the dictionary. She added, the list doesn't even begin to mention the fact that he likely cheated on me, including all aspects of an alternate love affair. But if he wanted me to go away so badly, why didn't he just tell me? Thing was, he did kind of tell her by fucking moving away and not asking her to come stay with him. He did not beg her to come back. She spontaneously drove to Medford without telling him to try and get back together. And why didn't she call him first? I think maybe because if she would have done that, he would have told her not to make the drive. Maybe because when she shows up, she knows she can use some of her freaky sex to try and change his young vampire hunting mind. Despite this list of hers, Jodi now moves to Medford. Okay, So he cheated on you, calls you the worst, filthiest names imaginable, trashes your name to anyone who will listen, is unsympathetic, tells you to fuck off weekly, and you move to Medford to go live with him. What is going on here? Jodi is nuts is what's going on. She'll repeat this pattern with Travis, complaining about how horribly he treats her, but then moving closer to him to spend more time with him, in spite of the pain he's supposedly continuing to cause for her. Adding more drama to her life, shortly after moving to Medford for Bobby the Vampire Slayer, she starts dating Bobby's roommate, Matt. So did BVS trash her name? If he trashed her name so much, why does his roommate now want to sacrifice his friendship with Bobby to date you? Guessing Jodi severely manipulated both of them. Jodi will quickly find a job at Applebee's, and soon she and Matt will rent a 1-bedroom apartment together. February 6, 2000, just weeks after moving to Medford to live with BVS, Jodi believes she is now in love with Matt. Things are moving fast in a different direction. She writes in her journal that this day that she feels blessed to be with a man so kind and caring. She writes, it is simply incredible, the fact that we are here building our dreams together. Remember when a few years ago she was ready to move to Costa Rica, start a family with Victor? Jodi really seems to very quickly hitch all of her hopes and dreams on whatever dude she has just started dating. She doesn't seem to understand how dysfunctional that is. She doesn't seem to be a strong, independent young person looking for a partner to build a life together with. She seems to have a hole in her she is always looking for a man to fill. I'm not talking about that hole, which I'm sure she's also constantly having filled Hail Josefina. Things will soon sour with the new perfect guy, Matt. Just 3 months later, in May of 2000, she'll write in her journal about how she misses Bobby the Vampire Slayer again. No idea if he's even still into vampires, by the way. He'll just always and forever be Bobby the Vampire Slayer to me. Then 2 further months later, in July, she's back to writing about how much she loves Matt. And then by October, Matt's out again. She begins her journal on October 8th, 2000 with, I feel utterly fucking worthless, useless and destructive. Like maybe I'm failing at life, failing at my karmic lessons, and failing in my relationship with my beloved. Oy vey. Jodi and Matt's relationship begins to truly crumble in January of 2001, a year after they start dating. So often it seems like Matt really doesn't give a shit. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a stereotypical woman who sits at home and isn't important, is your journal entry on January 3rd. And maybe she really is picking some bad dudes. Very possible. Or maybe she is just walking drama. Her relationship ended with Matt when he started secretly dating a woman named Bianca. And when Jodi finds out about it, she drives an hour and a half north to confront Bianca. It doesn't sound like they fought physically, just went off on her verbally. Bianca will later confirm this happened. She obviously tells Matt. Now Jodi begs Matt to stay with her, but he leaves her for Bianca. Let's check back in with Travis now. Spring of 2001, Travis is still dating Deanna, the LDS young lady he had started dating in the spring of 2000 after knowing her for a year. For a job, he is selling day planners at Franklin Covey, a retail store in Riverside, a store that is LDS owned, headquartered in Salt Lake City. I find this hilarious. I remember those Franklin Covey stores. There's not really any more around retail-wise, just one in their Salt Lake City headquarters. I used to stop in during my early stand-up days to get some fancy notebooks to write my jokes in, as if writing, in like a little moleskin book would provide better jokes than if I just used a spiral notebook I bought at the grocery store. Most of Travis's relationship with Deanna had been long distance. After just a few months of dating, she had left for Central America for her mission, and since then it had just been a lot of letters. Phone calls, email were not permitted, at least at that time. The church had a strict communication policy for members on a mission. They could actually only call family twice a year on Christmas and Mother's Day, and they were forbidden to have telephone contact with boyfriends or girlfriends. Got to stay focused on the mission. Gosh dang. Can't let the devil or a boyfriend or Aunt Myrtle distract you. Suddenly in June of 2001, Travis writes to tell her that it's over. He has seen someone else. The 24-year-old has just fallen in love with a young woman he had met at a young singles ward in Riverside. Her name is Linda Ballard. She's 19, a student at Brigham Young University in Provo. Travis and Linda had met once before while Linda was still in high school. He'd flirted with her then, but then his sister reminded him that she was too young. But then when she comes home, for the summer after her freshman year, he's like, old enough. Reconnects with her, and the pair quickly become a couple. Their first date and first kiss are on June 4th, 2001, exactly 7 years to the day before Travis is murdered. Travis adored Linda. She is described as beautiful with a slender, petite frame. Linda found Travis exceptionally handsome. He was thin as well, athletic. She was taken in by Travis's charisma and his easy way with people. And before long, their relationship became serious. But then some distance would get in the way again, and an MLM. That August, Linda returned to Provo for her second year at BYU. Travis wanted to go to Provo too with her, saying he'd find an apartment near campus and they could continue dating. But Linda, that was a bit much for her. Told him not to come yet. She wanted to wait a semester before he made such a big leap. Didn't want the pressure of having someone moving his whole life to another state for her. She wanted to date long distance, and they could visit each other as often as they could. That fall, Travis? I don't even know where that came from. That'd be a weird name. Travis, short for Travis. That fall, Travis is struggling financially. He's not making a lot of money at Franklin Covey, not selling enough moleskin notebooks. He shares a house with several other young men, but can still barely pay his rent and bills. So he ends up, doing some job searching, and he finds a company called Prepaid Legal that an LDS friend named Chris Hughes works at. And Prepaid Legal seems a little flippin' fucking gosh dang damn sketchy. This company, still around, founded by Harland C. Stonecipher. That's a fucking name. On August 8th, 1972, as the Sportsman Motor Club. I can't believe that's a real name. Sounds like a weird character in a book. Harland C. Stonecipher. That sounds like a 19th century dude who shows up in a little dusty western town and starts a doomsday cult. In 1976, Sportsman's Motor Club is incorporated as Prepaid Legal Services Incorporated. Prepaid Legal, now known as Legal Shield, sells or at least sold plans based on monthly payments similar to, insurance for healthcare or car accidents, but for legal representation. And it's a multi-level marketing company. encouraging its employees to enroll others to sell legal insurance underneath them. And the more people you sign up to sell the insurance underneath you, the bigger your take, the higher you rise in the company's ranks, a structure that sounds pretty pyramid-like. Sounds a lot like the good God Amway, maker of fine and affordable nutrition, beauty, and personal care products like Nutrilite, Fizzy, and Fabulous effervescent tablets that let your inner beauty bubble and sparkle with goji berries for skin health, biotin for healthy hair, and no artificial sweeteners. More than reasonably priced at just $8.50 per 10-tablet container. Hail Amway, blessed be the savings. Fucking MLMs. Hurt more people than they help year after year, feeding them delusions of riches. For young Travis, prepaid legal seems like a fun way to make money while meeting lots of new people. And it was for him. Travis would be one of the rare people that actually did make a great living working for an MLM. He had a real talent for it. Chris Hughes was looking for a person to help him build his MLM business in Southern California. Chris was new to town. He didn't have the connections it usually takes to get your pyramid scheme off the ground. Travis knew Riverside like the back of his hand, and thanks to his personality combined with LDS connections, he knew a lot of people. It was a perfect fit. Chris hired Travis onto his sales team at PPL, where Travis used the story of his childhood struggles to win over potential clients, and kind of becomes like a motivational speaker / salesman. PPL was great for Travis's bank account, but not great for his relationship. Linda not comfortable with PPL's multi-level marketing approach. Good for her. She found it awkward when Travis tried to sell the company's services to her friends constantly. Yep. They'd be on a double date, and Travis would quickly turn the conversation over to PPL and encourage the other couple to join. Holy shit. Dating someone doing stuff like that would be a hard pass for me. I don't like being given a hard sales pitch when I go somewhere to buy something. I like seeing what the product is, asking for someone to give me more info if I want it. Please don't pressure me. If you're pushing shit on me at dinner, it's going to be our last dinner. This made me imagine like the podcast version of this. Like you hear me do ad breaks on this show, because ad breaks are where ads are supposed to go. But what if you met me in real life and I just went on and on trying to get you to buy a mattress or some vitamins? Just out the gate. Oh, nice to meet you too. Hey, how's your back? You getting enough rest? Do you understand how a better night's sleep is proven to lead to less back pain and over 25% more productivity? Do you know that I can get you 15% off your best mattress and help you make the best decision of your life? A little bit obnoxious. Meanwhile, back in Oregon, Jodi bounces. In the fall of 2001, after things with Matt got bad, Jodi does not get back with Bobby the Vampire Slayer again. She moves down to Big Sur, California, where she takes a job waitressing at the Ventana Inn and Spa in Carmel. Carmel, only about 20 miles from her birthplace of Salinas. At the Inn and Spa, a man named Daryl Brewer is in charge of hiring and training employees. And Jodi soon develops a crush on him. To her, he is sophisticated, older, a real George Clooney type. Doesn't even talk that much about vampires. 6 months later, by the beginning of 2002, now 21-year-old Jodi and 42-year-old Daryl are in a relationship. Weird that this won't work out long term. This is a much more mature and stable relationship than her previous ones. But Jodi being Jodi, she does do some weird shit again. She seemed very intent on mimicking Daryl's ex-wife, an attractive blonde and successful career woman who had put herself through college by working at the chic Carmel restaurant where Jodi would eventually work. Daryl's ex had blonde hair. Jodi dyes her hair blonde. Daryl's ex gets breast implants. Then Jodi does. Jodi even gets the exact same model of car that Daryl's ex has. Despite her weird behavior, she doesn't seem to have a strong sense of self. She attaches her identity to whoever she's with. Daryl and Jodi do have a good life together for a while. They hike, camp, enjoy the outdoors. Daryl often leaves Jodi alone with his son, who starts to look to Jodi like an aunt. Jodi proves to be a mature partner, working 2 jobs to contribute to household expenses. And they date, and they live together for a few years. A couple years into the relationship, Daryl and Jodi even decide to buy a house together. Daryl and Jodi find a reasonably priced house down in Palm Desert, 440 miles away, east of LA by about 100 miles. Jodi gets a job there at California Pizza Kitchen. Their house costs $350,000. They intend to treat it as an investment. When they close on it in June of 2005, their hope is to live in the house for 2 years, then flip it for profit when the time is right. It would turn out they had jumped into real estate near the peak of the market and soon would be saddled with a house worth less than their outstanding mortgage. They would be upside down. And on top of that, Jodi and Daryl's relationship would soon hit a wall. Daryl did not want to get married again, did not want to have more kids. Jodi did. Their relationship starts to unravel. Now let's back up a few years, reconnect with Travis. Despite her MLM reservations, Travis and Linda still going out in January of 2002. That month, the two caravan to Utah using walkie-talkies to stay in touch over the long drive. Pretty cute. Linda had found Travis a house to share with some other single Mormon dudes, helps him move in. This place is not far from the house she shares with several other young Mormon women. As expected for two devout Mormons, Linda and Travis never take things further than kissing and cuddling. Gosh dang. But Travis is getting ready to make a change to that in the form of buying a ring and asking Linda's dad for his daughter's hand in marriage. But Linda has doubts. She's not sure that Travis is the one. And that May, just 4 months after Travis moves to Utah for her, she decides to move on. Travis is heartbroken, then finds comfort in the arms of his old flame, Deanna Reed, the girl he had broken up with to date Linda when Deanna was on her mission. For the next 3 years, they now date exclusively while they live separately. With Deanna back in his life, Travis feels a sense of security and stability. He now can focus on becoming his best possible self. And in order to do that, he develops some interesting routines. He begins each day with a motivational exercise. On a 3x5 index card, he lists the 6 things he believes are essential to do every day. Prayer, reading scripture, reading 10 pages of a good book, listening to 30 minutes of personal development lectures, working out, and making money. Okay, fine. I would probably add jerking off to that list, but maybe he didn't feel like he needed a reminder for that. He wrote the same list on a new index card every morning until the 6 items became a routine part of his day. As time goes on, he adds a 7th item to the list, then an 8th, and so on. He also creates other lists of things he wanted to do just for fun. Maybe jerking off made that list. He created another list of things he needed to do out of necessity. And actually, since he was celibate, due to his strict religious ideals, that's the list jerking off probably fell on. I mean, if you don't have sex and you don't jerk off in your 20s, you're going to fucking explode. In reality, the kind of things that made his list went from updating his calendar to 30 minutes of practicing Spanish. Once the lists were made, he would study them, ask himself, if this was all you get done, would it be an amazing day? Sometimes the answer would be yes, other times it would be no. Either way, he wouldn't start his day unless he could say that it was going to be one for the ages. Wow. I believe in having a plan, and I actually do find daily affirmations to be very helpful. But he took it to the next level. And these lists did help him. And I honestly respect the discipline he employed here. I joke around, but this is not a bad idea if you need help focusing and you need help getting more productivity out of your day. I print a checklist every week to make sure I'm knocking out what I need to do. With this routine, Travis became more confident and improved in his public speaking skills. He organizes events now and meetings for large groups of people, selling a shit ton of MLM lawyer insurance. Jan and Travis were together for about a year by the spring of 2003 when she now tells him she wants to get married and start a family. She's 24, getting pretty old maid by Mormon standards. Travis is 25, and this time he's the one who is not ready for marriage. But they stay together a while longer. In 2004, Deanna learns that her company is relocating its operation to North Phoenix, Arizona. Travis wants to buy property, but it is priced out of the Southern California market, so he's eager to go with her. He travels to the area a couple months ahead of Deanna to look at property. He first looks in Mesa, 20 miles east of Phoenix. It has a large Mormon population. Almost immediately, he finds a 5-bedroom house on Queensboro Avenue in Mesa for the right price. The house is huge, 4,500 square feet. He thinks the enormous house will be a great investment. The more bedrooms, the more roommates he can have him help pay his mortgage. In Mesa Travis joins the local LDS church on Hawes Road, quickly becomes a popular member of its young single adult ward. To help pay his mortgage, he rents out rooms to church members, friends, and singles looking for a monthly arrangement. And it's not long before he has a full house, all young men who are either affiliated with Mormonism, PPL, or, most often both. The church was Travis's best source for PPL sales by far. Deanna does not move in with him. She gets her own place, right? Their family's the church. They would frown big time on some unmarried cohabitation. That could lead to a lot of provo pushing, a dangerous amount. Sounds like it was a fun house he lived in. There was an open door policy. The roommates would gather to watch UFC fights, have parties, parties with no alcohol. Let's not get crazy. But you can bet your sweet bottom they had a whole mess of sugar. And let me tell you, you can get pretty flipped up if you eat too many double-stuffed Oreos. Oh my heck, the room is spinning. My tum-tum hurts. This party's wild. On Halloween, Travis and Deanna dressed as Johnny Lingo, a Polynesian trader, and Mahana, his Samoan wife, for the 1969 film Johnny Lingo, produced by the LDS Church. Okay, that seems a bit awkward. They played the newlywed game, came within 2 points of winning, beating other couples that had been together for years. But still, Travis is conflicted about marrying her. Why? Possibly the old Madonna whore complex we talked about earlier. What Travis's roommates and friends do not know was that he and Deanna had begun having, you guys, sexual relations. What the flip? He provo pushed his clean ween right out of his good boy slacks, past her Mormon muff, and straight into her Holy Spirit hole. Jeez Louise, heavens to Betsy! These sexual relations are making Travis question whether or not Deanna is marriage material. The two keep their physical relationship a secret for more than a year before going to their respective bishops to confess. The weight of the sin became too much. And in the LDS church, at least at that time, the confessions took place face-to-face in the bishop's office. First, the repentant person reveals his or her sin, at which point the conversation turns to demonstrating a desire to change. The process continues with weekly meetings with the bishop, who shares applicable scripture and spiritual advice. When she confesses, Deanna feels supported and cared for by her community. Travis does not. His temple recommends that his ID card type thing that lets him go into Mormon temples be taken away. Neither Travis nor Deanna are now allowed to participate in sacraments in their churches for a time. Deanna goes through a 10-month repentance process. Travis's bishop won't let him back in for a year. And the stress of all this seems to have helped lead to the end of their relationship. Now Travis has experienced firsthand that if he sleeps with a woman and is open about it, he will be punished by his community. The same community that had essentially saved him from an abusive mother and terrible childhood, a deadbeat dad, is now ousting him on the basis of premarital sex. This experience will impact his relationship with Jodi Arias. And their timelines are about to intersect, by the way. But first, in 2005, Travis gets a puppy. He gets a black pug. He'd always loved pugs because they were the dogs his mom loved, and he names his puppy Napoleon. But because he hadn't been celibate, little known rule, the church makes him put it down. If you can't keep your wing clean and your good boy slacks, you don't get to have a fucking puppy. Rules is rules. Amen. Of course, that's not true. I don't know why I think things like that. I really don't. I'm sick. Meanwhile, back in Jodi world, she's about to make the move that will bring her to meeting Travis Alexander. Fed up with her finances, working at CPK, Jodi starts looking around for better options. And when you know it, a coworker introduces her to prepaid legal. Hail the good God, Amway. That Amway craziness is a reference that comes from the Nexium cult episode, by the way, if you were thoroughly confused. Prepaid legal's seemingly unlimited income ceiling appeals to her because she is scared and desperate. She's been making some rough financial choices recently. She started putting about half of her mortgage on credit cards. Her financial situation is becoming pretty precarious. And also, while she's still living with Daryl Brewer, they haven't officially broken up yet, but their relationship is fizzling to an end. They're no longer sleeping together. Back to her financial woes, Jodi is counting on prepaid legal to solve her money problems. In September of 2006, the now 26-year-old decides to attend PPL's Las Vegas convention, a 4-hour drive away. And it is here where Jodi and Travis will meet. On September 13th, 2006, Jodi and Travis meet at the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas at the Rainforest Cafe. I have eaten there myself. Jodi was impressed when she met the single 29-year-old. Travis had done well in PPL. He'd done exactly what she was hoping to do. He was such a successful salesman that by early 2006, he'd already become an executive director by achieving at least 75 sales in 1 month, including sales made by those underneath him. He was now earning close to the $100,000 mark, which was the level at which salespeople were awarded a special ring for executives known as ring earners. Nice! Can get a cool ring. What a tremendous honor. I wonder if you could get like a cape at the $500,000 level. Maybe a ceremonial sword. At the $1 million level, maybe get a wizard hat. Jodi was a newcomer who'd first started working with PPL that March. She wasn't making shit, like the majority of people at any given MLM. Jodi just finished lunch, was standing with a group of people near the gorilla bench at the entrance to the Rainforest Cafe when Travis walked up to her and introduced himself. They then went for a stroll to the casino, wandered away from the group. He was interested. Travis invited Jodi to be his guest at the executive director's banquet that very night. Jodi initially turned down the invite because she didn't have anything to wear, but her friends told her to go. It would be a good experience. And then Sky Hughes, wife of Travis's friend Chris Hughes, offered to loan Jodi a dress. And when Jodi emerged wearing it, Travis was blown away. Thought she was gorgeous. She was 5'6", 115 pounds, curvy for a thinner woman, a blonde bombshell. And they spent the next 5 days hanging out. On Sunday, the last day of the conference, the two met for breakfast alone. Oh my gosh, unchaperoned! Afterward, Jodi accompanied Travis to the front desk where he checked out of the hotel, got in a taxi for the airport. She gave him her phone number. He reached out the very next day. And then things got serious fast for the two of them. Travis was 10 months shy of his 30th birthday, still unmarried. An odd thing in the Mormon church. If he didn't get married soon, he's going to start looking weird, going to start hurting his PPL networking. He feels pressure to get married. Jodi, meanwhile, 26, wants to get married and start a family. Both of them think their romantic luck has turned around. It soon became a nightly ritual that Travis would call Jodi around 8 p.m. when she's getting home from her job at a restaurant. PPL not working for her. She didn't have the personality for it. but you'll stick with it. The phone calls quickly become longer, even more frequent, multiple calls a day soon. As the days go on, Travis invites Jodi to join him at Chris and Sky Hughes' home in Murrieta, California, the first weekend after they'd met. Jodi now quickly breaks things off officially with Daryl. She goes to Murrieta, and she and Travis socialize with other guests who are there for a party. When the other guests leave, Travis and Jodi go to separate bedrooms, and then scandal. Travis comes to see her in her bedroom after everyone else had gone to sleep. It was a rendezvous they had planned earlier in the night. Travis came on hot and heavy right away. She didn't resist. They made out. Travis began taking off her clothes. Then he performed oral sex on her, gave her a little mouth hug, and she reciprocated. Sky Hughes would later say this did not happen. She said that Jodi lied about this because the following morning, Travis told her that he and Jodi had kissed, but he respected her too much to move too quickly. Now, could this have been a lie to throw off his Mormon friend's suspicions, to not get in trouble again with the church? I think so. Travis did boast to some other friends, some guy friends, that Jodi wanted the T-Dog, quote unquote. Sky, Chris, and Jodi and Travis then go to Sunday morning church service before Jodi leaves for Palm Desert. The next week, when Travis is driving back to Mesa, he makes a stop in Palm Desert to give Jodi the Book of Mormon. Well, he didn't just give her that. Didn't drive all the way there to just give her a book. Get the flip out of here. According to Jodi, Travis also tells her that he's horny, and they decide to act on it, driving separately to a local park. She's still living with Daryl. There, she says Travis gets into her car, and she performs oral sex on him, some more mouth hugging. When it's over, Jodi recalls that Travis readjusted the car visor he had pulled down, then put his pants back on. Jodi recalled that he refused to kiss her afterwards, saying it was gross. He kissed her on the cheek and left. Classy! Later, Jodi says she gets a voicemail from Travis, in which he expresses regret about the experience. Oh boy. Despite his ween shame, Travis and Jodi continue to speak on the phone for hours every night. The calls now typically occur after 11 p.m., sometimes as late as 3 a.m. Some dirty talk starting to go on now. After a month of talking, the two meet again in person in October. They plan to meet up for a romantic vacation, i.e. Fuckfest, in Ehrenberg, Arizona, on the Arizona-California border, a little dusty community home to about 1,000 people, kind of in between where the two lived. Jodi said they were physical from the moment she walked through the door, and they started passionately kissing. Soon they were both naked on the bed, doing some Provo pushing. Grind, grind, grind. According to Jodi, the rest of the weekend is spent engaged in mutual oral sex, watching television, eating at Sizzler, and going to a movie, and sounds like a fucking great weekend. Blowjob, Sizzler, and the movies. Living the dream. Hail, Lucifina. Wasn't the kind of romantic vacation Jodi had pictured. But Travis did spend some time talking to her about spirituality as well, in between blowjobs. So her hopes held out for this turning into something more than a series of hookups. Interesting. She says Travis also told her about some unexpected aspects of Mormonism on this trip. Here we go. Oh boy, here we go. I laughed so fucking hard when I came across the info I'm about to share with you. Travis taught her about his interpretation of the church's law of chastity. Vaginal sex was off limits, kind of. But everything else, oral, anal, totally fine. It may seem like Travis is just trying to trick her here, but in practice, LDS youth have often come up with some very interesting interpretations of virginity over the years. For a lot of Mormons, if the penis is not thrusting back and forth inside the vagina, everyone's still a virgin. No one's sinning. Anal sex has become a common way for different groups of young Mormons over the years to have sex and think that they are still virgins. I shit you not. It feels like there's a pun there. It's called the old poop hole loophole. Truly not making this up. The poop hole loophole. Oral sex, seen by many, is okay. And then there's the weirdest sexual act to me called soaking, also known as parking, marinating, and the Provo float. Good God, this is weird. The Provo float is when a dude sticks his penis inside the vagina but doesn't move it or come. Just no thrusting, no grinding, no climax. You just pop it in and you hold it still, and bingo, bango, it doesn't count. What the fuck? Religion meets sex. It twists folks into the strangest situations and rationalizations. It just never ceases to amuse me. This is the craziest logic. Really think about this. Think about this logic. Think of people convincing themselves that God is totally cool with you sticking your dick into a pussy if you don't move it around. That makes God seem like some kind of weird, super creepy perv. Watching you have sex, just like, yeah. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. That's good. That's wholesome. Yeah. That's virtuous. That's what? Oh no! What the flip are you doing? Stop moving it! No, that's devil sex! Oh, now I have to burn you. And then apply that to anal sex. Think about how weird it is to think that God doesn't want you to have vaginal sex, but God is so cool with anal. Again, it makes God seem like a weird, creepy perv just hiding in the bushes and watching you fuck. Just, yeah. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's holy. Oh, stick it in that butt. Yeah. Oh, frick that butt. Frick that butt so hard. No, not in the puss. Oh, God. Now you gotta burn. It's so insane. It is so fucking insane what people convince themselves of. So now Travis and Jodi are doing everything except having the most basic vanilla form of sex. Jodi claims later she's bummed out by how sex-focused Travis is. She says, she likes the sex, but, she wanted more than sex from Travis. She wanted more than just some poop hole loopholing. Poop hole loopholing. There we go. The whole weekend in Ehrenberg has the air of an illicit tryst for her, not the romantic, classy vacation she envisioned. Travis's sexual guilt rears its head again. After the weekend, he doesn't call her for 2 days. When she calls and texts, he doesn't answer. But then a week later, he leaves her a kind and reassuring voicemail. He's probably thinking about her butt. They start up their nightly phone calls again, talking about spiritual and sexual matters. The following month, on November 11th, 2006, Travis sends Jodi a dick pic, as the good Lord intended his spiritual shepherds to do. Travis is not thrusting in that old devil puss, so everything's kosher. 2 weeks later, November 26, 2006, Jodi's baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints. And then she makes a God and dick here going on in this story. During her pre-baptism interview, the branch president asked if she's obeying the law of chastity. And she supposedly replied, based on a technical sense, yes. Thank the Lord for the poop hole loophole. At Jodi's request, Travis performed the ceremony. The baptism took place at the LDS Church in Palm Desert, and afterwards, according to Jodi, they go back to her house and have anal sex. The kind that God likes, As one does, directly following a baptism, you got to frick that Mormon butt. Frick it so hard. You got to pound that loophole. This is insane. Around this time, Travis's friends start to have doubts about Jodi, not sure that she's right for him. Travis's friends, skeptical about Jodi's faith. They notice she doesn't seem that dedicated to Mormonism. She'd sit and look at the Book of Mormon, but only when Travis was in the room. She would glance at him frequently like she was making sure that he saw her reading it. And although Travis's friends were Mormon, they didn't just sit around reading the Book of Mormon all day. It was like Jodi was just, faking it all, just doing what she thought Mormons did, trying to impress everyone, which sounds right for her. Jodi quickly becomes consumed by her relationship with Travis, which also sounds right for her. When she takes shifts at Bing Crosby's, a restaurant in Palm Desert she now works at, her coworkers will see her in her car while she's supposed to be working. She's trying to call or text Travis. Won't go back to work until she hears back from him. That Christmas, Jodi goes to Arizona for a prepaid legal corporate event in Phoenix. Phoenix, of course, right by Mesa. Travis is putting up about 30 people at his place for this event, but tells Jodi, awkward, he doesn't have room for her. Can't let the church find out that they're hooking up. Not after all that trouble, he got in last time. Several hours later, Jodi appears at his house uninvited. It is particularly awkward because Travis's ex-girlfriend Deanna is one of his guests. Jodi walks right in and announces herself as Travis's girlfriend while Travis is in the middle of giving a motivational presentation. That night, Travis tells people that Jodi is not his girlfriend. They've just gone on a couple of dates. This is super awkward. And so the real craziness of their relationship begins. Jodi spends the night anyway. Friends remember coming downstairs the following morning to find her asleep under the Christmas tree, like she's one of Travis's presents. That's so uncomfortable. After the Christmas party, even more awkward for Jodi, Travis tells her that he's been seeing other women. He tells her in plain terms their relationship is not exclusive. He is frickin' other bottoms, thrusting loopholes, so doing some holy soaking, and some other sweet pussies. I don't know. Jodi now goes on a few dates with some men back in California. Make sure to tell Travis about it. Tells him how obsessed these men are with her, playing this jealousy game. She also visits his friends, the Hughes, PPL bigwigs. Tells him about how men just won't leave her alone. But she doesn't care about him because her heart belongs to Travis, her heart and her loophole. In this jealousy mind game, this works with Travis for a little while. In February of 2007, Travis and Jodi come out now as an official couple. After, kind of messing around since September of 2006. Jodi made Travis jealous, and she had pulled off some classic Arias manipulation to accomplish this. She'd become friendly with Sky Hughes, Chris's wife, Jodi tells Sky that she feels like Travis doesn't care about her. Like he just wants, some soaking and some loopholing from her. Sky then emails Travis, reprimands him for using Jodi sexually without giving her a commitment, calling him a, quote, heart predator, saying Jodi was being treated horribly. You weren't beating her physically, but you were emotionally. She has given you everything, all control, and you give her 3 a.m. calls and makeout fests. A little more than making out was going on, whatever. Now Travis feels pressure to make her his girlfriend. So, this guy's not his boss's wife, because Chris isn't really his boss, but, he's a big wig in PPL, and he's a big wig in PPL. He doesn't want, his peers thinking he's a womanizer, some dirtbag. He also knows that Jodi isn't right for him. He tells Sky that he'll end it with Jodi, and Sky encourages Jodi to move on. Jodi starts faking emails now from anonymous stalkers who say that Travis doesn't deserve her, sending these emails to Travis. He's far too away to protect her. And then on the first weekend of February, Jodi shows up at Travis's house unannounced. And then rather than be upset, I guess he's happy to see her. Her craziness worked. And as of February 2nd, 2007, now they're a couple. And now they have so much sex, all the kinds, even that super kinky, hardcore porn kind, when you're thrusting back and forth inside a vagina, the kind that God hates. Jodi would later claim in the trial that Travis had a voracious sexual appetite and sometimes bordered on abuse. Travis's friends remember that it is Jodi, not Travis, who seems to have had a hyperactive libido. Seems like they both did. One of Travis's best friends, Taylor Searle, will later say, we were driving one day and he was talking about Jodi and was describing how she was a nymphomaniac. He was explaining that Jodi had gotten herself off 8 times in one day. Might have been 9, might have been 13. It was a high number. But he was just using that as an illustration of how over the top she was. He was like, she's crazy. She's a nymphomaniac. And we were like, whoa. Oh, gosh dang. And he was just explaining just how big of a nympho she was. That's his statement. So much sexual concern in this group, and probably a lot of hypocrisy. I imagine Taylor, and Travis's other friends, judging Arias for being a nympho, and then soaking their weens and their ladies before having anal sex with them to finish, and then somehow feeling sexually righteous. Jodi was not endearing herself to Travis's sexually repressive social circle. They didn't like how sex positive she seemed. At an LDS wedding in the spring of 2007, Jodi came up behind Travis and started sucking on his ear in the middle of church. Egad, gosh dang. Well, what if the children see that affection? They might want affection themselves someday. Travis seemed oblivious to her inappropriate behavior. Others were not. Sky, who'd gone to bat for Jodi, started doubting that she'd made the right call. She didn't care for the ear sucking. Scandalous. She didn't care for how Jodi seemed to be doing some shady shit out in public to try and make Travis jealous either. One time at a hotel, Sky saw Jodi walk over, past an open door where a group of men were involved in a business meeting, and flip her hair and check herself out in the reflective glass for them to see. She had plenty of opportunity to observe Jodi firsthand because the Hughes house was the midway point between Travis's and Jodi's house. They'd meet there fairly often. One time, Sky caught Jodi listening at the door while Travis was on a phone call. Also caught her lingering outside the bathroom, waiting for Travis to come out. And then she told the Hughes, quite frankly, that she had found flirtatious emails from other women to Travis when snooping on his emails, then forwarded those emails to her own account. Why do people do shit like that? Right? I've had someone look at my phone before without asking, and I told them if they ever did that again, we were done. And I meant it. That we would break, and then we would break up a month or so later. And she didn't even find anything. I wasn't even doing anything. I told her, I'm not going to play those games. If you don't trust me, just go. Find someone else. I hate it when people keep catching their partner doing shit, and then they just keep staying with them. Fuck that. If you know someone's cheating, just leave them. Like you think you can't for whatever reason, then start making a plan. But don't become a paranoid weirdo, always wondering what they're up to and delusional enough to think that you can change them. When has anyone ever caught their partner cheating on them over and over and over, especially early in the relationship when it's supposed to be this honeymoon phase, best behavior, and then, it's gone on to become this healthy, happy, committed relationship? I'm sure it happens on rare occasion, the exception to the rule. So easy for these two to break up at this point. The easiest. It's not like Jodi and Travis have their financial futures tied together. Kids, they're not worried about custody and all that. They don't live together. They don't live in the same city. You catch him flirting with other girls at this point, have some fucking respect for yourself. Just go find someone better. Believe that you're worth it. If you don't believe that, odds are those who date you will not believe it either. Might not be fair, but true. Fucking Jodi. Addicted to trying to win over guys who just don't want her like she wants to be wanted. In April of 2007, when Jodi and Travis are staying with him, Chris and Sky now confront Travis about Jodi. Jodi is creeping them out. They begin to express their concerns about Jodi when Sky gets a weird feeling that Jodi is listening at the door. They quickly change the subject. Sure enough, Moments later, Jodi knocks at the door, asks what they're doing. Travis tells her that he was just about to head to bed, and then she leaves. Well, they think she leaves. 40 minutes later, Travis gets the feeling that they're being, that she's eavesdropping on them, that she's nearby, listening somehow. He opens the front door, and she's just standing there. She's just been hanging around outside the door for 40 minutes after claiming that she left, trying to listen to the fucking wall. That is creepy. If I'm Travis, holy shit, is the relationship over right then and there. Find another loophole to frick. I had a girl I was dating pretty seriously in between my ex-wife and Lindsay looked at my phone, find this text thread of me flirting with the girl that I was casually seeing, hooking up with, whatever, but before we had started dating. And then she called me on the road one time, accuses me of cheating with this person because she had written this person's name down, thought she had found her online. She had not, just found somebody else by the same name. Found out that girl that I'd never even met happened to live an hour or so away from the city I happened to be doing shows at that weekend. Based on that and nothing else, is furious. And I was like, this is fucking crazy. We're done. I told her that, this paranoid, creepy, just crazy cyber detective shit. I'm not going to live like that. And that was it. Came home, gave her her shit that was in my apartment, never saw her again. Told her we were done, ignored all texts and calls from her from that day forward. And I've never regretted that decision for a single second. Kick the crazy out of your life, meat sacks. Don't look back. Life is too short, full of too much pain you can't avoid, to add nonsense you can avoid to the pile. Jodi Arias is nuts. Before she killed, it is clear she was highly unstable. Normal, well-adjusted people do not do shit like this. Especially not at almost 27. It's not like she's 15. Even then, it would be weird. The next morning, now actually afraid for themselves and their children, Sky and Chris tell Travis that he and Jodi no longer welcome at their house. Travis is obviously upset by this. Jodi's putting a wedge between him and some of his best friends. This alarming behavior continues a couple weeks later when Jodi and Travis are at a PPL conference, and Jodi feels like Travis is ignoring her. When Travis's married friend Clancy Talbot has a few glasses of wine and stumbles, she grabs onto Travis for balance, and then Jodi follows Clancy into the bathroom and confronts her, ranting about how angry she is at Travis and for her to stay away from Travis. Jodi's blocking the exit door. Clancy is afraid. She notices that Jodi is literally shaking with anger. Finally, unsure of what to do, Clancy pushes past Jodi and then just avoids that lunatic as much as she can going forward. Jodi is unraveling. Now, actually, after falling hopelessly behind on payments, her home in Palm Desert is being foreclosed on, which makes her more unstable. And it's not looking like Travis is going to offer her a place to stay or his hand in marriage anytime soon. So not knowing what else to do, Jodi packs up and moves to Big Sur now, 45 miles from Salinas. She's a fucking mess. She and Travis continue to date, traveling frequently and visiting Mormon holy sites in Illinois and Missouri now. They also visit places from a book he'd bought called 1,000 Places to See Before You Die, visiting Niagara Falls, the Finger Lakes in New York, as well as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum in Cleveland, Ohio, which is an awesome place, by the way. That June, Travis and Jodi go on a short trip to Sedona, Arizona, and the Grand Canyon with some of Travis's friends, siblings Daniel and Desiree Freeman. They will later remember things being pretty tense between Travis and Jodi on this trip. At one point, Travis pretends to be ditching Jodi when she gets out of the car to take a picture, and Jodi gets very angry about that. Doesn't like to joke. They yell at each other, and then they don't speak for a big part of the trip. But after this trip, they keep traveling together. On another trip, a short time later, they go to Daniel's Summit Lodge outside of Heber City, Utah. They're meeting friends there. One of these friends happens to be, Clancy Talbot, Travis's married friend, the one Jodi cornered in the bathroom. Jodi accuses Travis now straight up of cheating on her with Clancy. It does not appear to be a credible accusation at all. Travis gets angry. The relationship is rapidly becoming more and more toxic, held together only by jealousy and sex. A few days later, Travis falls asleep on the couch with his cell phone nearby. Jodi sneaks over and takes it, sneaks into the bathroom, reads his texts, finds evidence of Travis flirting with other women. Now, is this shitty of Travis? Yes. Did Jodi have a right to be upset? Sure. Should she have been looking through his phone? Fuck no. She should have packed up her shit and left. After she reads the messages, she does not confront Travis immediately. They're about to go on a trip to Sacred Grove in Palmyra, New York, where Mormons believe Joseph Smith received his first vision. But that road trip doesn't happen. The two get in a fight on the phone on June 29, 2007. Jodi breaks up with Travis after them arguing about the texts. The next day, he calls her back to apologize. Why? He promises to change. They don't get back together, but they both agree they may get back together in the future. Jodi is crushed. She wants to marry Travis. Travis seems relieved. After the breakup, he quickly moves on emotionally, is ready to start the next chapter of his life. According to friends, he is optimistic about finding true love elsewhere, but then Jodi starts texting him. She calls him. He answers. They start talking again. They start having phone sex. Then they start meeting up again for real sex, not just the poop hole loophole or some soaking, hardcore shit. Penis, vagina, full thrust. God probably cried when he was watching that happen from the bushes. Then Jodi does something crazy again. While they've hooked up a few times since the breakup, they are not a couple again, but about a month after their breakup, Jodi moves to Mesa, stays with a friend named Rachel, and then finds accommodation from a church website called ldshousing.net. Her new place, about 10 minutes from Travis's house. And Travis is not happy. He did not want Jodi in Mesa. What they've been doing was just hooking up in his mind. He wants to move on. And he starts dating a fellow church member now named Lisa Andrews. She's 19, Mormon. He falls head over heels for her. She tells him that she's not ready to get married. They move pretty fast at first. Travis finds himself in a conundrum now. The girl he wants to get married to doesn't want to marry him. The girl he does not want to marry him is batshit crazy and does want to marry him. Or the girl who, does want to marry him is, oh my God. Lisa, seems a little crazy here too. She was a strict adherent to the law of chastity, took it more seriously than Travis did. This is how seriously she took it. Once, when she and Travis made out, she could feel that he had an erection under his pants that he didn't even talk about. And it gave her some boner guilt. She thought it was her fault. She thought she had done something sinful to give him lustful thoughts that led to that devil boner. This is also insane. Meanwhile, shortly after Jodi settles into Mesa, she gets a job at P.F. Chang's. And then Travis also gives her another job. This is so stupid. She complains to him about needing money, so he pays her to now clean his house. Why? Don't ever do this. Don't ever offer to pay your jealous, crazy ex to come over and clean your house. It's insulting to them, for one thing. It's weird. It's dangerous. Like they're not going to snoop around and then get mad and do something crazy. If you feel like you just have to help an ex out financially, just give them money. Don't employ them in your house. Jodi, her new cleaning job, of course, leads to the two of them having more sex. And that, of course, leads to expectations of being more than a house cleaner for Jodi, which then leads to fights, and around they go. Some of Travis's frustrations with Jodi around this time are made clear in some text messages he sent to her in 2007. I'm sick of you playing stupid and dealing with childish tactics. It's just always something, Jodi. It just gets old. You don't care about anything that doesn't involve you. Just forget it. I know how you operate. If you're tired of me, leave me alone. We didn't have sex, Jodi. How many times do I have to explain it? We poop hole loopholed after some vaginal soaking. That's what casual friends do. It's like holding hands, but with coming. Okay, maybe he didn't send that last one. In September of 2007, a year after they'd met, Jodi and Travis go on another road trip together. It just doesn't end. This time to Havasupai Falls in Arizona. Beautiful waterfalls inside the Grand Canyon. When they get back, Lisa learns from a friend that Travis is cheating on her with Jodi and ends things with him. Oh yeah, he was still dating the 19-year-old who asked God to forgive her for giving her boyfriend a boner when they kissed. On September 23rd, 2007, Lisa sends Travis a lengthy email. I'm sick of hearing about Jodi Arias, Lisa wrote. What woman would hold on for so long without some sense of reassurance? If you really cared, you would tell Jodi to back off, regardless of your past. So interesting. She isn't just mad at Travis for, cheating on her. She also thinks it's wrong for him to keep leading on Jodi when he has no intention of turning their relationship into anything serious. And she's right. Jodi's nuts, but what Travis is doing is also wrong. He's nuts in his own way. In October, Jodi and Travis travel together to a balloon festival now in New Mexico, where they fuck a whole bunch. And then when they get back to Mesa, he gets back together with Lisa. All kissy-face boner guilt. So many terrible decisions being made. It's just nonstop. Jodi is, of course, furious. 2 months later, in December of 2007, when Travis is at Lisa's place, someone knocks at the door. Lisa answers. No one's there. An hour or so later, Travis heads out to his car, parked in front of her place. All 4 of his tires have been slashed. Both dismiss it as a random act of vandalism, but I'm sure Travis knew who did it. Most examining this case think obviously it was Jodi, that she had followed him to Lisa's place. The next day, he gets 4 new tires, and then that night, all 4 new tires are slashed. The next day, Lisa receives an angry email from John Doe, which she saved, filled with hostility. It mentioned her relationship with Travis. At one point, it read, "You shameful whore. Your heavenly Father must be ashamed of the whoredoms you have committed with that insidious man. If you let him stay in your bed one more time or even sleep under the same roof as him, you will be giving the appearance of evil." What the fuck? There were a number of religious references with the email signing off. "Be thou clean, sin no more. Heavenly Father loves you and wants you to make right choices. I know you are strong enough to choose the right. Your Father in heaven is pulling for you. Don't ignore the promptings you receive. because they are vital to your spiritual well-being. Keep your poopo loophole clean. Obviously not that. Lisa thought it was Jodi. She just couldn't prove it. Also, it seems like Lisa's gotten over her boner guilt. Maybe Travis explained to her that they can, they can Provo float all day, every day, and not upset creepy lurker god. Jodi now seems to have gone full crazy. Travis is now no longer hiring her to clean his house, but she still keeps coming over to his house. He'll lock the door, lock the windows. She'll do weird shit like crawl through the fucking doggy door. And he'll come home and he'll just be sleeping on his couch or in his bed naked. Time to get a security system and get rid of that doggy door. Time to call the police, file a restraining order. Things start to go missing from his house. Someone uses his computer when he's not home. And then after all this, Travis starts inviting her over and hooking up with her again. Dude was addicted to that loophole. He's now cheating on Lisa with the girl he has to know slashes tires, all four of them twice. The girl who freaked out his girlfriend, the girl who's breaking into his house. And that's now January of 2008. Jodi is sending him explicit texts. Stuff like, I fell asleep. But to answer your question, yes, I want to grind you. And I want to be, all caps, loud. And I want to give you a nice warm mouth hug too, smiley face. A month later, in February, she sends him a very direct text. Maybe you could give my ass a much needed pounding. Well, all right. That February, Travis and Lisa now break up for good. Jodi takes this as a sign that Travis wants to be back with her. Travis does not. Travis promptly instead starts dating a young woman named Marie Mimi Hall. In March of 2008, Travis asks Mimi Hall on a date. She accepts. After 2 dates, however, she tells him she's not interested in anything romantic, but the two keep hanging out as friends. Travis hopes he can get her to hang around long enough for him to be released from the friend zone. He likes her. He wants to loophole that poop hole. He wants to frick that butt. Jodi, meanwhile, now decides to leave town and head back to Wairika, where her parents still live. Jodi Arias has become worried about her 27-year-old daughter, who has seemed more and more mentally unstable lately. When they talk on the phone, she either sounds like she's in the best mood ever, or she starts crying hysterically. She convinces her daughter to move back in with Jodi's grandparents in Wairika. Jodi moves in with her grandparents, gets 2 jobs, works as a waitress at 2 restaurants, Casa Ramos and the Purple Plum. She's not in a great headspace, Abby. Feels like she's come crawling back with her tail between her legs a decade after dropping out of high school. She's back in the little town she never liked living in. This is not how she envisioned her life working out. Things seem to be going better now for Travis. He wins a trip to Cancun from his PPL sales. Hail the good God, Amway! And he invites Mimi to be his guest. He's thrilled when she agrees. Maybe she'll let him Provo float that wean boat. Maybe he can soak. Their flight is scheduled for Tuesday, June 10th. Travis takes it 2 months before the trip to really work on himself. He meets with his bishop, trying to get himself temple worthy again. The bishop knows about his sexual behavior with Jodi. Travis is working on rectifying that, kind of not really. He also goes to the gym regularly, loses some weight. In April, he writes on his blog, "This year will be the best year of my life. This is the year that will eclipse all others. I will earn more, learn more, travel more, serve more, love more, give more, and be more than all the other years of my life combined." Then in another post dated April 14th, 2008, he writes, "We only live once. We don't get another shot if we screw it up. Why not live life to the fullest? On our deathbeds, none of us will wish they watched more TV or read more tabloids or listen to more foul music. And they certainly won't wish they blamed their lives on someone else a little more. What they'll wish is that they loophole so many more poop holes." No, he doesn't say that. I agree with most of what he wrote there, except the foul music part. I love some foul music. Despite writing about loving more, giving more, serving more, he also fucks with Jodi's head more. In late April, he opens the crazy door again, texting her now, asking her to send him a dirty picture. Dude is conflicted. Also, 13 days after Travis starts his blog, Jodi, who's been reading it, she starts a weird mirror blog. Reading Travis's blog makes her feel connected to him, and she'll leave comments on his blog. And then when he writes on spiritual matters, she will write the same things on her blog. She'll even quote his passages. She also starts dating someone else, Bobby the Vampire Slayer. She tells him about the loophole, and suddenly he doesn't care about Dracula anymore. He has a new mystery to explore. Instead of looking for immortals who can disappear into the shadows, all he cares about is making his Nosferatu peen disappear into Jodi's butt shadow. Like a vampire lives for fresh blood, he now lives for his backdoor soak. No, I don't know what BVS is up to. Probably running a weekly vampire-themed LARP in Medford or something. Jodi starts dating another PPL dude that she had met when dating Travis, Ryan Burns. That does not mean she has let go of Travis. On May 2nd, Travis sends Jodi this text. "There's not a day where I haven't dreamt about driving my shaft long and hard into you. My God. You are the ultimate slut in bed. You'll rejoice in being a whore whose sole purpose in life is to please me any way I desire. So he seems a little less motivational speakerish here. Playing with so much fire here. I got to say, in all the true crime I have covered, he has made it the hardest for me to not victim shame. And I will reiterate that he did not deserve to be murdered. I know that, but holy shit, was he making a series of terrible fucking choices. He just kept fucking with and literally fucking the wrong can of worms to be opened. Jodi is sending these kind of texts back to Travis. She's also seen Ryan Burns, although their entire relationship so far has been long distance. By mid-May, Jodi agrees to come visit Ryan and begins making plans to drive to Salt Lake City, Utah. There's a prepaid legal business briefing in June. And Jodi tells Ryan that she's gonna go. In the early morning hours of May 10th, 2008, Jodi and Travis have one of their signature late-night phone sex sessions. Like other late-night calls they had, the point was to bring each other to climax, but this time Jodi recorded it. You can find it on YouTube if you're real curious. The sound quality is terrible. It's hard to understand what they say a lot of the time. And, it's pretty creepy. The same day, Jodi writes the final entry on her blog. I cannot ignore that there is an ever-present yearning and desire that pulses within me. It throbs for gratification and fulfillment. Her loophole is hungry. Also, shortly after her post, Ryan texts her angrily. I have no idea what he's talking about here when he writes, why don't you have him come and fuck you in the woods? I can only imagine you are so worried about me reading. You are paranoid because you have no respect for people's privacy and you dare insult me of all people. Through your actions, you hate more than love by denying me a human right of privacy. Countless times. You have a lot of freaking nerve. We are all not like you in that aspect. I love that he writes fuck in the first sentence and then later, you got a lot of freaking nerve. Their dynamic is again so toxic. 10 days later, Travis posts his last blog entry titled, Why I Want to Marry a Gold Digger. He writes, I want someone to love me for the gold that is within me and is willing to dig with me to extract it. I did a little soul searching and realized that I was lonely. I realized it was time to adjust my priorities and date with marriage in mind. This type of dating, to me, is like a very long job interview and can be exponentially more mentally taxing. Desperately trying to find out if my date has an axe murderer penned up inside of her, knowing she's wondering the same about me. God, that is creepy, considering what's going to happen. If only he just could have committed to the ideals he was writing about, he'd probably still be alive. On May 26, 2008, Travis is on his Facebook page when he gets logged out, a sign that someone else had just signed into his account. A couple minutes later, he's bounced out again. He thinks it's Jodi. He accuses her of being the one who's doing this. She admits it is her. You are the worst thing that ever happened to me, he texts her, repeatedly calling her evil, a sociopath. He adds that her grandparents would be ashamed of her if they knew what she was doing, tells her to stay away from him. She, of course, will not. Now events quickly escalate towards murder. Jodi's grandfather calls the police on May 28, 2008, 3:40 p.m. to report a break-in. Police arrived to find a broken door jamb at the entrance to the home. There had been a rash of burglaries in the area recently, but this one didn't feel like it had been committed by whoever was responsible for the other break-ins. The TV appeared to have been moved, but only the DVD player had been taken. Also, Mr. Allen had an extensive gun collection, which he kept in an unlocked cabinet, and now one and only one of his 9 firearms is missing, a .25 caliber pistol. May 29, 2008. Travis's last post to social media. He'd been working out a lot and noticed to his dismay that his butt looked flat. Underneath his photo, he wrote, T-Dog's gluteus. Rest in peace. July 28, 1977 to May 29, 2008. We'll miss you, big guy. Also, so creepy, considering what's going to happen. The photo was taken in the very same bathroom his body would be discovered in just days later. June 2nd, Jodi packs an overnight bag with some clothes, a cell phone, a charger, and in all likelihood, and by likelihood, I mean definitely, even though they didn't find the gun, her grandfather's .25 caliber pistol. She tells Ryan that she is coming to Utah on Wednesday, June 4th, the day of the prepaid legal briefing. The night before, Jodi stays up late talking to Travis. Between 1 and 4 a.m., Jodi calls Travis 4 times. The longest conversation lasting just a few minutes. Around 3 a.m., Travis calls Jodi twice, and they speak for over an hour. More phone sex. She rents a white Ford Focus then in Redding, California, about 100 miles south of Wairika. She tells the budget rent-a-car staff that she would only be driving the car locally, but when the car was returned on June 7th, it has been driven over 2,800 miles. So, not quite driven locally. It was also missing all of its floor mats, and there was what looked like Kool-Aid stains on the front and rear seats. The car was cleaned before police were able to examine it. Not suspicious at all. Jodi drives the rental car south to Monterey when she then borrows 2 gas cans from her ex, Daryl Brewer, on June 3rd, the guy she had the Palm Desert place with. She later bought gas in Pasadena at an Arco gas station, first 8 gallons with her MasterCard, then 4 minutes later, 9 gallons with cash. The gas cans would mean that she wouldn't have to stop, for quite a while, and there would be no evidence of one segment of her upcoming journey down to Mesa in the form of receipts. So premeditated. Leaving Pasadena, she sets off for Mesa, calling Travis intermittently. Weird that she would plan, not having to get gas, but then not really think about cell phone records. Bit of an oversight. She also calls Ryan Burns, tells him she'll be in Salt Lake City at 11 p.m. the following night. Okay, 4:30 a.m. now, June 4th. Jodi arrives in Mesa. Travis is expecting her. She crawls into bed with him. For most of the day, they hang out together, a lot of time spent in bed, of course. At 3 p.m., Enrique, one of Travis's roommates at the time, arrives home from work. As he's grabbing something to eat from the kitchen, he hears voices coming from the den. Sounds like Travis is talking to someone. Enrique assumes it's a conference call. An hour later, Enrique leaves the house for the night. 4:19 p.m. Travis checks his email on his laptop in the den. An hour later, he goes back upstairs. 5:22 p.m., he takes a shower in his master bathroom. 8 minutes after stepping into the shower, where Jodi would take several nude photos of him, Travis is slaughtered inside his master bathroom. He is shot in the face. His throat is slit. He's stabbed more than 24 times. Pictures are also taken of his dead body. At the edge of the bathroom hallway, Travis gasped his last breath, collapsed on the carpet. His corpse was then dragged along the tile floor, stuffed back into the shower stall, where he was washed clean of blood. Jodi then deletes the pics she had taken, throws the camera in the washing machine to try and destroy it. Police will recover it later. For more than a day now, Jodi's phone has been turned off, so she did kind of think about the cell phone situation. She switches it back on a few hours later. At 11:48 p.m. on June 4th, hours after murdering him, Jodi leaves an upbeat message for Travis, in which she apologizes for not making it to Mesa and tells him that she and her friend Heather were planning to see Othello in early July and invites him to join them. She also calls her new boyfriend, Ryan Burns, who's worried about Jodi after she'd failed to show up in Salt Lake City on time. Jodi tells Ryan that while en route to Salt Lake City, she'd gotten lost and driven 100 miles in the wrong direction. Then, as she drove, her phone battery died, and she couldn't find the charger anywhere. She pulled over to the side of the road, and she slept for a while. And then when she woke up, gosh dang, when you know it, there's the charger. It's right under the passenger seat. Weird that you wouldn't look for it. A pretty shitty story, and it will not be the dumbest lie she will tell in all this. Not even fucking close. A real doozy's coming up. On Thursday, June 5th, Jodi finally arrives in Salt Lake City. Ryan does not notice anything particularly unusual about her behavior. He may have been a little distracted, playing some poophole loophole. She hung out with him at the seminar, and then a group of more than a dozen PPL folks go to dinner at Chili's. Jodi dines with Ryan and his friends, laughing, chatting. Afterward, they go to his place. They watch a movie, probably do other stuff. She falls asleep for a while. Then they leave Salt Lake City between 2 and 3 a.m. For the next few days, Travis's roommates will notice weird things about the house, like the fact that the front door is locked, which Travis never did, and that no one was around to feed Napoleon, which he always did. They assumed that Travis had maybe already left for Cancun and just didn't go upstairs to check on him. On June 7th, Jodi returned her rental car with far more miles on it than the short trip she said she was taking it for. She returns to her grandparents' house, texts Travis, sends him an email asking why she hadn't heard from him. As if she didn't know. On June 9th, 5 days after he'd been murdered, Mimi Hall keeps trying to get into contact with Travis since the two of them are supposed to leave for Cancun that morning. On the evening of June 9th, she goes to his house in Mesa, knocks, waits for someone to answer. When no one comes to the door, she goes home, calls her friend Michelle Lowry and Michelle's boyfriend Dallin Forrest, two of Travis's friends as well. The three of them go back to the house, enter by using the keypad code at the garage. Immediately, Mimi knows something's wrong. There's a bad smell. The three move to the garage, into the house, where they find Zach and Zach's girlfriend, Amanda McBrien, in Zach's bedroom. Zach's another roommate. They hadn't heard the doorbell. The group tells Zach that Travis isn't answering their calls, and they're worried about him. Zach tries to open the door to Travis's bedroom, but it's locked. So he goes to get a spare key. When he returns, opens the door, the four see huge blood stain on the carpet between the bedroom and the master bath, and they call the police. At 10:30 p.m., officers from the Mesa Police Department respond to a 911 call at 11428 East Queensboro Avenue. They find, of course, Travis's body. There are large amounts of blood in the shower, splattered on the floors, wall, and sink. Travis had nearly been beheaded. Just before midnight, homicide detective and lead investigator Esteban Flores arrives at the scene. The bathroom is gruesome. Flores has a hard time determining the cause of death because of the massive number of wounds across Travis's torso and head. His body is hunched over in a sitting position on the bathroom floor. Looks as though it had been rinsed off. There's a bullet casing that had been carefully removed from the caked blood into the sink, but the handgun is nowhere to be found. There's also one bloody palm print, very distinct when I looked at pictures on the wall between the bedroom and the bathroom. It does not seem like a random killing. Nothing in Travis's bedroom is out of place except for the sheets and blankets from the bed, which have been stripped. His roommates have been living in the same house with their dead landlord for days, suggesting Travis was a very specific target. When Flores interviews the people who were present when the body is found and asks them if they have any idea who could have done this, one name immediately comes up: Jodi Arias. To Detective Flores' surprise, it was not hard to get in touch with her. She spent the days after Travis's body was discovered making long-distance calls to Arizona, reaching out to Travis's friends, trying to find out what's going on. She also calls police headquarters twice, leaves her number where she can be reached. Did she hope she could deflect suspicion by offering to help? Maybe. Or did she just need to know, for some reason, what the police knew? Around 10 in the morning on June 10th, Detective Flores calls Jodi. She offers her assistance, but claims she doesn't really know what was going on. Then says she wanted to tell the detective about the last time she talked to Travis. She tells Flores about a couple of trips she and Travis had been planning to go to D.C. and Oregon, and immediately Flores gets a sense that Jodi is painting a picture of a relationship where everything was perfect, not the impression he'd gotten from talking to Travis's other friends. They talk for a while longer. Flores tries to give the impression that he is on Jodi's side. He is not. Right away, his spidey senses got tingling about Jodi. Meanwhile, back at the house, once the medical examiner's office removes the body, investigators start to look at the rest of the room and the house as a whole. In the laundry room, they find a set of brown striped sheets in the dryer. There was a reddish stain on the inside rim of the washing machine, along with a Sony DSC H9 video camera and a couple of articles of Travis's clothing. On June 12, 2008, the autopsy of Travis Alexander takes place at the Maricopa County's Forensic Science Center. An examination of the head reveals two oblique, linear, full-thickness, incised wounds of the right and left posterior scalp, each measured 2 inches in length. There was also a 1 1/4 inch stab wound on the lower scalp, just below the right earlobe, and a 1 1/4 inch shallow incised wound on the upper left forehead, within the hairline. The wounds on Travis's neck were the most severe, with a number of shallow stabs around his upper neck, along with a gaping incision that stretched across the upper neck. He'd had his throat slit, a cut that measured 6 inches across. The cut perforated his upper airway, strapped neck muscles, and severed both the right jugular vein and right carotid artery. Basically, Travis had been cut from ear to ear, and then all the way down to his spine. It was brutal, a crime that indicated a possible crime of passion, so much rage. On his torso, more stab wounds. There was a cluster of 9 stab wounds on the upper right and left side of Travis's back, right between his shoulder blades. That ranged in size from 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches. The most severe stab wound was on his chest, a 3.5 inch deep gash at the sternum between his 3rd and 4th ribs. The wound penetrated a major vein near the base of the heart. Worst of all, the presence of hemorrhage associated with many of the wounds determined that Travis had suffered almost all of the stabbing wounds while still alive. X-rays determined that the bullet entered Travis's head just above his right eyebrow. The medical examiner determined that the fatal wounds were the single stab wound to the center of his chest and the final throat slicing. Seems as if he was shot after he was already dead. The matter of death, of course, homicide. Detective Flores follows up about a message left on Travis's phone by old Clancy Talbot, who'd last seen Jodi at a PPL seminar in Salt Lake City on June 5th now. Clancy tells Flores that Jodi had left California on Tuesday, June 3rd, but hadn't arrived in Salt Lake City until Thursday, June 5th. Clancy knew that the trip from Northern California to Salt Lake City was typically about 10 hours. But Jodi had been traveling for nearly 2 days. She and other people at the conference had tried to contact Jodi, but couldn't. It also concerned Clancy because of what she had seen later. Clancy had had dinner with Jodi, Ryan, and about 20 friends at Chili's the night of June 5th. Jodi had Band-Aids on fingers on both of her hands. "What did you do to your hands?" one of the friends asked. "I'm a bartender. I cut my fingers," Jodi replied. Clancy thought that was suspicious. So did Detective Flores. And of course, Clancy had previous run-ins with Arias, right? Seen her shake with rage. She knew about their toxic relationship. At 6 p.m. on June 17th, Mimi, Dallin, Michelle, Jodi all arrive at the Mesa Police Headquarters. They were there to be fingerprinted and provide saliva for DNA testing. Jodi was the only one who declined to sit down with the detective for a follow-up interview. She said she'd been speaking with a close friend who had convinced her that there were a number of people talking about her involvement in Travis's death, talking shit about her, and as a result, she was now uncomfortable speaking to law enforcement without an attorney present. The others were uncomfortable with Jodi's presence. A few days earlier, Jodi had posted a photo gallery on her MySpace page of 25 photos of Travis, captioned "In loving memory of Travis." The following day, she signed his online obituary guest book. She even reached out to his family. On June 13th, she'd sent 20 white irises to Travis's grandmother. Ugh. Travis's family doesn't have any proof that Jodi is their son's killer at this point, or that, his killer. But unbeknownst to Jodi, the police do. They now had the photographs from the video camera. Though the camera had been put through water, or through the wash, like soaked in water, computer forensics managed to recover numerous pictures from it, including some that had been deleted. The deleted photos included images of Travis, who was naked, standing in various poses in the shower, reaching his arms up as he soaped his body. One of the last photos of Travis alive shows him staring intently into the camera. I've seen it. It is it's an unsettling photo. His handsome face betraying a subtle anxiety as droplets of water roll down his cheeks. Time stamped June 4th, 2008, 5:29 p.m. Less than a minute later, 5:30 p.m., another photo shows Travis sitting on the slippery floor in an extremely vulnerable position. 44 seconds later, there's a blurry photo of the bathroom ceiling. And then just a minute later, another photo taken upside down and apparently by accident shows Travis lying on his back with a large amount of blood around his neck and shoulders. The bathroom in the background. The photo also reveals the right pant leg and foot of the killer. The murderer is wearing a dark colored sock or shoe, striped sweatpants that are blue with a zipper on the back of the cuff. Jodi had a pair just like that. And then there were photos of Jodi on the camera. Not in the murder scene, but photos taken just a few hours earlier that proved she was there. Timestamp starting at 1:40 p.m. The first showed her posing naked on Travis's bed. There were 4 photos of Jodi posing in the nude in extremely provocative and graphic sexual positions. Showing off that loophole, there were 2 of Travis, who was also naked in both images, a bottle of KY lube next to him. The police now had proof that Jodi was lying. She had been in Mesa on June 4th. They now asked her about her supposed movements on the days where she had been unreachable. She said that on June 2nd, she left California for Salt Lake City for the PPL conference, renting a car in Redding. Then she went to Monterey, California to hang out with friends. Then she drove to LA. Then she headed northwest to Salt Lake City. She claimed her long drive to Salt Lake City took her through Boulder City and Las Vegas, and then she slept in her car for a few hours at one point. And, her story really wasn't adding up for these guys because it was bullshit. She claimed the driving from Wairika to Salt Lake City via Los Angeles and Las Vegas had taken her 48 hours. Mapping that route, including a 10-hour rest stop, Detective Flores concluded her trip would have taken a maximum of 29 hours, which is quite a few less hours. Adding Mesa to the route would have added a few hours, but there were still 10 or 11 hours of additional time to spare. On July 9th, 2008, exactly 1 month after Travis Alexander's body had been found, a grand jury in Maricopa County indicts Jodi on 1 count of first-degree murder under 2 theories, premeditated murder and felony murder, which is when the murder occurs during the course of a felony, which the jury said was burglary. They didn't think she was trying to steal anything. The definition of second-degree burglary is entering or remaining unlawfully in a residence with the intent to commit any theft or felony therein. Jodi had no idea about the indictment. When she was given it, she was celebrating her 28th birthday back in Wairika. On July 14th, 5 days after her birthday, Detective Flores and 2 other investigators from the Mesa Police Department, Danny McBride, pretty funny that his name was Danny McBride, and Tom Denning fly to Wairika to arrest Jodi on charges of first-degree murder. Just after 9:30 p.m., they execute the arrest warrant and the search warrant, leading Jodi from her house, or from the house, grandparents' house, in handcuffs. Jodi gets interviewed by police on July 15th, the morning after her arrest. Dressed in white pants, form-fitting gray V-neck shirt, and a pair of flip-flops, Jodi appeared lifeless as the cameras in the tiny interrogation room began to roll. She alternates between sitting at the table, sitting at the floor, back pressed against the wall, legs extended straight out. At one point, Jodi whispers to herself, "It's cold in here." 5 minutes later, Detective Flores enters the room. Jodi's bizarre behavior in this interrogation would go down as one of the weirdest parts of this strange case. For more than 2 hours on July 15th, Jodi denies being anywhere near Travis Alexander's home the night he was brutally murdered, telling the detective questioning her that if she had killed her ex-boyfriend, she would beg for the death penalty. She spends hours sticking to her story that she wasn't anywhere near Mesa, but she just got stuck in California. Flores lets her talk, giving her a piece of paper to show him her supposed route, and then eventually he tells her that he simply doesn't believe her, and that he has so much proof that she was in Alexander's home when he was brutally murdered. The proof, he tells her, includes her hair and her blood mixed with Alexander's and that bloody handprint that had her blood in it. He tells her there is no way anyone else could have left your palm print in blood on that wall. Jodi still will not admit to being there. She says there must be some other explanation. She says she once cut herself while bathing Alexander's dog in the bathroom, that maybe the blood, I don't know, maybe it came from that. There's no reason I would ever want to hurt him, she says. And later, if I was going to ever kill somebody, I would use gloves. I have plenty of them. Over and over, Detective Flores asked her to come clean. Why won't you admit it? He asks. You were there. Quit playing this game. Over and over, she denies being involved. I've never been that angry at him, she says. If I did that, I'd be fully ready to face the consequences. I'm all for the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Oh, shut the fuck up with your Bible stuff at this point, lady. Flores then outlines the evidence against her, the bloody palm print, the gun, her DNA, the gaps in her timeline. And when Jodi still will not admit it, he shows her the pictures on the camera, including X-rated close-ups of her butthole and vagina. Jodi admits that, okay, yeah, all right, that looks like me. The girl in the photo does look exactly like me, but not me. She still won't admit it. They have nude, full-body, time-stamped photos of her. Like close-up, her face is in them, everything. Close-up shots of her ass, her pussy. Travis could not have taken better photo documentation of her. Her fingerprints are all over the crime scene. Her blood is mixed with his blood. Clearly defined palm print on the wall. The kind of gun used was the exact type of gun that went missing from her grandpa's house in Wairika. There's her fucked up timeline. Everyone is pointing their suspicion at her. There's cuts on her hands the day after the murder. She's lied so many times to the police, and she's like, no, I don't think so. No, that's someone else's loophole. Flores tells Arias that she's going to be booked into the local jail now. And she says tearfully, this is a really shallow question, and it's going to reveal how shallow I am. But before they book me, can I clean myself up a little bit? Flores says, no. And soon after he leaves her alone in the interview room, she laughs and says to herself, you should have at least done your makeup, Jodi. Gosh. Jodi then proceeds to anxiously play with her hair, rub her shoulders before she bizarrely breaks out into a song. She sings a Dido song called Here With Me. And then as she waits to be booked, she looks for the trash for a while. And then she does a handstand against the wall for 30 seconds. That night, she'll be booked on charges of first-degree murder. When her mugshot is taken, she grins into the camera like she is posing for her yearbook photo. It is so tonally off. It's so creepy. Jodi is interrogated again the next day, July 16th. She's now wearing a jail-issued orange jumpsuit. When no one else came into the room for several minutes, she began to sing the final verse of Bette Midler's love song, The Rose. When the interrogation started, once again, Jodi rambles for hours about her relationship with Travis, and then finally says she's going to come clean. Jodi now says that she had been afraid to talk about it before, but she's ready to give the story. And she says the real killers made her scared to tell it because they threatened to hurt her family. This is crazy. She said she had gone to Travis's house that afternoon. And yeah, okay, they did have sex a few times. Sure, he'd taken a few close-up pics of her loophole. Then she'd fed the dog Napoleon. And then Travis had gone upstairs to shower and shave. And then, yeah, okay, she started taking some naked pictures of Travis in the shower. Real artsy stuff, where he looked like, I don't know, he was scared that someone was pointing a gun at him. Then all hell broke loose. And this is the dumbest lie I said she'd tell that I hinted at earlier. She said she suddenly heard a loud bang, and Travis began screaming. And then she blacked out, maybe. When she woke up a few seconds later, or maybe she didn't wake up, maybe she was still awake, she saw two people near Travis, a guy and a girl, both wearing ski masks. You know, the kind of ski masks bad guy robber people wear, murderers who have guns. And immediately, when I heard this, I did think, son of a bitch. I don't know where my dad was on July 16th, 2008, right? And he lived in Arizona for 2 years. He knows the area. And further, I don't know where my mom was that day. Did they get back together for that day to frame Jodi Arias? Where were my parents? Where were your parents? We might need to form a mom watch group to complement dad watch. And of course, that's nonsense. Back to this horrible story. Then in this really poorly thought out script for a shitty action movie no one would ever produce because it's so fucking stupid. She says that the people who killed Travis debated about whether or not to kill her after shooting him, but then ultimately they let her go. Because that seems like the kind of thing that cold-blooded killers do. They let eyewitnesses live and then just leave. While they stay behind at a murder scene. Jodi says the girl wanted to kill her, but the guy just wanted to kill Travis, and that he said, that's not what we're here for. And then the man rifled through her purse, took out some of her cash. And when he saw her car registration, he said, you must be that bitch from California. Weird detail. She's not a good storyteller. Then she says they told her to leave. Go on, get out of here. And even though Travis was still alive, despite being shot, she did leave. And then I guess they stabbed him and stuff. And just hoped that she wouldn't call the police after she leaves, and they just let her leave. That's reasonable. And then she doesn't call the police when she leaves. But she does call Travis, who she knew had just been shot by people who wanted him dead. And she left him an upbeat message, apologizing for not making it to Mesa, and telling him that she and her friend Heather are planning to see Othello in early July, and they invite him to join. The kind of voicemail an innocent person leaves. Then she drives to Salt Lake City, goes on a date, like an innocent person does. I watched her tell this stupid fucking story while being interviewed by 48 Hours correspondent Maureen Marr, who seemed on the verge of rolling her eyes at Jodi the entire time. It's so great. Highly recommend. When Jodi tells it to her, she changes some of the details, as one often does when lying. She says that after the guy shot Travis, she charged the woman in the mask who was holding a knife, knocked her to the ground because she's tough and brave, and then she yelled at Travis, "Let's go!" And then he told her, "I can't feel my legs." And meanwhile, the guy with the gun, who I guess had just been standing by quietly, waiting to say his next line like a stage actor in a play written by a fucking 5-year-old, he now decides to put the gun against Jodi's head. And then he and the woman argue over whether or not they should shoot her. And then in this version, he does decide to shoot her and pulls the trigger. But miracle, the gun jams. And then the lady with the knife, I guess she's forgotten she has a knife, and she's standing there waiting for her next poorly written line. And then the two masked killers just keep standing there like two idiots while Jodi gets up, grabs her purse, runs out of the house, gets in her car, and drives away. And they do nothing. They do not try to chase her down. Watching the doc, I laughed so hard at what happens next. Maureen gives some voiceover to a dramatic reenactment of this nonsense of Jodi driving away. And she says, "It was an unbelievable getaway." Yeah, it sure was. After hearing the story, Maureen says, "You get in the car, no one's followed you, you drive away, where do you go?" She asks this staring daggers at Jodi, also managing to give a look that screams, "Bitch, are you for real?" Jodi says she drove forever and ever until she was in the desert. And then Maureen asks, "Did you call 911? And Jodi says, "No." She asks, "Did you go to a neighbor? Did you call a friend?" And Jodi says, "I didn't call anybody or tell anybody." Then Maureen asks, "Why would you do nothing? Nothing to help him?" And Jodi says, "My butt hurt from all the loopholing and I was distracted. My front butt hurt too. He soaked the shit out of me." JK. No, she gives a weird pause, maybe realizes on some level how utterly stupid she sounds. And then she says, "I was terrified and I was scared for my life. And I think there was a naive belief that I could pretend like it didn't really happen." And that's it. That's her whole story. That's the story she hoped would set her free. That is the dumbest story anyone who is not actually severely mentally handicapped has maybe ever told to try to get out of a murder. Who just drives off and leaves behind someone they claim to love who has just been shot but is still alive, and they just don't fucking call the police, even though they're safe in their car and they have their cell phone? No one. No one does that ever. Detective Flores, after hearing a version of this horseshit, tells her that he doesn't believe her, especially the part about the attackers just letting her go. But Jodi, he's like, "Well, it's the truth." Jodi's then extradited to Mesa, Arizona, September 5th, 2008. She's kept at Maricopa County's Estrella Women's Jail in Phoenix. 6 days after her arrival in Arizona, Jodi enters a plea of not guilty. At her arraignment at Maricopa Superior Court in downtown Phoenix, bond is set at $2 million. From jail, Jodi schedules press conferences with local news stations and one national network, a defense lawyer's worst nightmare, because in all these interviews, she tells the public about the two assailants that she claimed killed Travis, a story the media openly mocks, and they call it the ninja theory. So just some ninja snuck in and killed Travis and then just let her go. October 8th, Jodi gets some bad news. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office has filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty in her case, and she deserves it. I mean, even if you're against death penalty, even if you don't think she deserves it because of the murder, can we all agree she deserves it for telling that story? In order to seek the death penalty, the state was required to prove at least one aggravating circumstance that qualified a particular murder for the death penalty. In Arizona, the law sets out 14 aggravators, which include scenarios such as killing of a police officer or of a witness, killing for monetary gain, and killing in an especially cruel, heinous, or depraved manner. Since Travis was stabbed and sliced more than 24 times and shot in the head, the state concluded that he suffered physical and mental anguish, and was conscious long enough to know that he was going to die. That qualified the murder to be considered for the aggravating circumstance of especially cruel, heinous, and depraved. Fair. After hearing of all this, Jodi does not back down from her crazy story. She'll stick to it for 4 more years, which is how long it takes for the trial to start. We'll skip over all the pre-trial years. Mostly just a lot of determining of what evidence will be allowed. The day after New Year's, January 2nd, 2013, Jodi's trial finally begins with prosecutor Juan Martinez seeking the death penalty. Jodi is represented by L. Kirk Nurmi and Jennifer Wilmot, who now argued that Travis's death was justifiable because it was committed in self-defense. The story she's told all over in the media and to investigators for 4 years will now change drastically. For the trial, Jodi changes up her look. Instead of being a blonde bombshell with tasteful makeup, now she's a brunette, wispy bangs, thick frame glasses. Jodi's called to the witness stand February 4th, 2013. She'll testify for 18 days and will not help her case because she is a maniac and an idiot. On the first day of her 18-day testimony, she tells of being violently abused by her parents beginning when she was 7 years old. No one will corroborate this. This is echoes of Casey Anthony's lying ass here. Arias testifies that she rented a car in Reading instead of Wairika because a budget website gave her two options. One to go north, one to go south, where her brother lived in Reading. On her second day on the stand, she says that her sex life with Travis included a lot of oral sex and anal sex. A lot of loopholing and poop-holing. She said the anal sex was painful for her the first time. She described in vivid detail in front of Travis's friends and family every kind of sexual behavior she and Travis had engaged in, including how they experimented with Pop Rocks and Tootsie Pops. Her bikini waxes, their mutual masturbation sessions. Even the phone sex tape is played, in which Travis says he wanted to zip tie her to a tree while she was dressed up as Little Red Riding Hood. She testifies that Alexander secretly found young boys and girls sexually attractive, and she tried to help him with those urges. Now she's trying to make Travis look like a pedophile, which no one else has ever accused him of being, ever. And herself like some kind of sexual rehab physician. Again, like Casey Anthony shit here. And then, as I alluded to, she ditches the ninja theory. Now she says the relationship became increasingly physically and emotionally abusive. Travis's sister can be seen in the gallery during her testimony, rolling her eyes, shaking her head in disbelief at this. Jodi claims that Travis shook her the night he died while saying, "I'm fucking sick of you." And then he began screaming at me, after which he body slammed me on the floor at the foot of his bed and taunted her, saying, "Don't act like that hurts," before he called her a bitch and kicked her in the ribs. Afterward, Jodi said, "He went to kick me again. I put my hand out." Arias held up her left hand in the courtroom now and showed that her ring finger was crooked. No one who saw her in Salt Lake City the day after this happened remembered her finger being crooked. No one. Then, according to Jodi, the dysfunction of the relationship reaches its climax when she kills Alexander in self-defense after he becomes enraged following a day of sex and some kind of gun accident, forcing her to fight for her life. Prosecutors note that this was a very, very different account of how Travis's death had gone down than she had been, telling for 4 years. March 14th, psychologist Richard Samuels testifies for the defense for nearly 6 days, saying that Jodi was in a fight or flight mode to defend herself, and that caused her brain to stop retaining memory. In response, a juror asked whether this scenario could occur even if it was premeditated murder. Samuels replied, "Is it possible? Yeah. Is it probable? No." And he diagnoses Jodi with PTSD. That's why she clung to a really stupid lie for 4 years, then suddenly remembered a better, more sympathetic story once her trial starts because of PTSD. Sure. The defense would bring out a lot of people to testify to Jodi's behavior. Beginning on March 6th, Alice LaViolette, a psychotherapist who specializes in domestic violence, testifies that Jodi was a victim of domestic abuse and that most victims don't tell anyone about abuse because they feel ashamed and humiliated. Way to discredit actual victims of domestic abuse, Alice, you fucking quack. Clinical and credible psychologist Janine DeMart testifies for the prosecution that Arias does not suffer from PTSD or amnesia and was not abused by Alexander. Instead, DeMart says Arias suffers from borderline personality disorder, showing signs of immaturity and an unstable sense of identity. Ding, 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 bingo, bango, we have a winner. I love you, DeMart. Thank you for being good at what you do. She said the people who suffer from this disorder have a terrified feeling of being abandoned by others. Ding, ding, ding. If Bobby the Vampire Slayer would have been in the courtroom, I'm guessing he'd be nodding his head, in agreement. Closing arguments will wrap up on May 4th, a full 4 months after the trial begins. It had been an incredibly chaotic trial, from warring psychologists to Jodi's 18-day testimony to a juror getting dismissed for being arrested for a DUI. May 8th, 2013, after 15 hours of deliberation, Jodi is found guilty of first-degree murder. Out of 12 jurors, 5 jurors find her guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. 7 find her guilty of both first-degree premeditated murder and felony murder. As the guilty verdict is read, Jodi struggles to repress tears, poor baby, as Travis's family smiles and hugs each other. Several people who had gathered outside the courtroom begin celebrating by cheering and chanting. But it's not over. In the aggravation phase, which starts on May 15th, the jury determines that Jodi is eligible for the death penalty. And then the next day, the penalty phase begins. May 16th, prosecutors call on Travis family members to offer victim impact statements in an effort to convince the jury that Arias' crime merits a death sentence. May 21st, Jodi begs for a life sentence. This was a reversal from her statements on TV 4 years earlier in which she had asked for the death penalty. She said, "Each time I said that, I meant it, but I lacked perspective. Until very recently, I could not imagine standing before you and asking you to give me life." She said she changed her mind to avoid bringing more pain to members of her family who were in the courtroom. At one point, she held up a white T-shirt with the word "survivor" written across it. Fucking the balls on this maniac. Telling the jurors that she would sell the clothing and donate all proceeds to victims of domestic abuse. Shut the fuck up, Jodi, you piece of trash. So many women out there actually have been domestically abused. Women who aren't domestic abusers themselves who have murdered their lover. They don't need Jodi's help. They don't need her to be the face of this fucking anything. She also said she would donate her hair to Locks of Love while in prison and had already done so 3 times while in jail. She's a great person. The sentencing trial results in a hung jury, and the judge has no choice but to declare a mistrial. The judge sentences Jodi to life in prison without possibility of parole. Do you think if she was a man and did the same shit, the jury would have voted to have her killed? I do. I think her looks played a part. Being an attractive woman got her life instead of death. They just felt sorry enough for her. If she would have looked like me, fucking death. In late January 2013, artwork drawn by Jodi began selling on eBay. I hate this. The seller was her brother. He claimed that the profits went towards covering the family's travel expenses to the trial and better food for Arias while she's in jail. What is Jodi like in prison? Same as ever, it seems. Her fellow inmates say that she's not well liked, that she flirts with guards to get special treatment and comes across as phony and manipulative. In October 2017, Jodi filed an appeal of her conviction, but it was delayed due to systematic errors. Then in October of 2019, she tried to appeal again, citing cumulative misconduct by prosecutor Juan Martinez. The judge is like, get the fuck out of here. The appeal is denied. She's now doing time in Perryville Prison, located in Goodyear, Arizona, less than an hour from Travis Alexander's, less than an hour from Mesa. Excuse me. Now let's get out of here and recap this strange, sad story.
Good job, soldier. You made it back. Barely.
Jodi Arias and the murder of Travis Alexander. What a story. Before I recap it, so sorry, one last sponsor. Today's Timesuck is brought to you by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Sinless Premarital Sex Outreach Committee. If you're a young Mormon and you're looking for a release, but don't want to lose your standing in the church, we'd like to present some new alternatives to soaking, poophole loopholing, and staying moral with oral. Now feel free to indulge in handless sternum massaging, also known as chest docking. The sternum can be a real source of tension for a lot of women. It's where the pectoral muscles attach, and rubbing those muscles with one's erect penis can be a great way for both the one getting massaged to relax and the one massaging to climax. To massage without your hands, please rub your erect penis back and forth along the sternum, with your female partner pushing her breasts together around the penis to aid in the tension release, stretching the muscles. This will typically lead to ejaculation, often on the face, and the skincare properties of semen are widely known and approved of by God. So keep keeping it out of the vagina, kids, at least when it's moving. And keep poophole loopholing, staying moral with oral, soaking, and now keep it rocking with some flipping chest docking. Happy, wholesome loving, everyone. God is watching. And he likes it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's nice. That's real nice. That's an interesting sponsor. Chest docking sounds fun. Anywho, let's recap now. The trial following Travis's murder in June of 2008 would captivate the nation as they followed along with tales of raunchy sex, secret meetings, and alleged abuse. It all seemed like a horrifying way for what could have been an ideal relationship to end. Jodi and Travis were both at turning points in their lives when they met at the prepaid legal conference in Las Vegas in September of 2006. There was an instant attraction. Travis extended an invitation for Jodi to join him at the PPL gala, but it was never going to be an ideal relationship because, Jodi was Jodi. Jodi had already exhibited stalker-like behavior in previous relationships. Also, Travis knew by the time he met Jodi that open premarital sex would get him kicked out of the Mormon community. The more Travis pulled away, the crazier Jodi got. Sadly, Travis never did what he should have, which was to stop having any kind of contact with her. He wanted the sex too much, and he paid for it with his life. Right, his throat would be cut ear to ear. He'd be shot, stabbed almost 30 times. His murder was so premeditated to an insane degree. Just a few days before, Jodi had packed her bags with a stolen gun, rented car, gotten gas cans so she wouldn't have receipts, turned off her phone, set out to Mesa to kill Travis, after having sex with him for a while. Incredibly, she left a camera at the crime scene. The smoking gun would be those digitally recovered photos. Some of the last photos of Travis alive are so chilling. Standing in that same shower he will be murdered in, a look of horror and deep sadness in his eyes. Thankfully, Jodi was convicted and will spend the rest of her life in jail. Careful who you shack up with, meat sack. Stay far away from Jodi's brand of crazy. It's not worth it. Let's head to our top 5 takeaways.
Timesuck. Top 5 takeaways.
Number 1, Jodi Arias killed Travis Alexander on June 4th, 2008 by stabbing him multiple times, slitting his throat, shooting him once in the head. This came on the heels of a weeks-long plan to kill Travis that started with her stealing a gun from her grandfather at the end of May. Number 2, Jodi lied the entire time, all the way through her trial. She actually told 3 main stories. The first was she wasn't even in Mesa, which was quickly disproved. So, then she tells the second, the ninja theory, that 2 people killed Travis and just let her go, which was even dumber than trying to deny she was there. And then the third, that she killed Travis, but it had been in self-defense after months of abuse, which did not happen. Number 3, Mormonism and most religions that ban sex before marriage do so at the cost of some of the mental health of their members. The shame can lead to a lot more destructive emotional issues surrounding sex than a healthy experimentation does. Teaching young people that it's bad to feel arousal leads to guilt and compartmentalization and to soaking and to poophole loopholing, provo pushing, chest docking. Travis might still be alive today if he hadn't felt such shame about having premarital sex and was able to find a partner he could communicate with in a healthy way about sex and love. Number 4, Jodi slowly escalated her behavior towards Travis over the years. She tried to make him jealous. Over less than 2 years, you get it. Dropped by his house unexpectedly, announced to his friends that she was his girlfriend, even snuck in his house through the doggy door. If you or someone you know is in a situation like Travis's, or that seems so unhealthy and unstable, please reach out to someone in your community or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline if you're in America, 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. If you're in other countries, as many of our listeners are, there are equivalent phone numbers in, I think, all of them, pretty much. No one should have to live in fear of being harmed by the person who's supposed to love them the most. And number 5, new info, one more goofy LDS sexual term. One young LDS said that there was a strong push for oral sex amongst he and his single friends who were horny but wanted to sexually experiment. He wrote, when I was a graduate student at Brigham Young University, and I understand this continues to be true today, there were some students who adopted the slogan, stay moral, go oral. And then failing that, many would just get married and then divorced shortly thereafter to really get their fuck on. It's unclear how often this happens, but some BYU students, and probably other young Mormons as well, will go to Vegas, get secretly hitched for a weekend or a few months so they can have guilt-free sex before mutually divorcing and then going on their merry ways. Here's some testimonial of this. In the mid-1960s and again during the early 70s when I was at BYU, it was called a Wendover wedding weekend. The couple would zip over to the border to Wendover, get hitched, and then have all the sex they wanted back at BYU. Still lived apart, and if they were caught, they were legally married. Would file for either an annulment or a divorce with a cheap lawyer after a bit, and then go find another partner to hitch up with. We are such a weird species.
Timesuck. Top 5 takeaways.
Jodi Arias and the murder of Travis Alexander has been sucked. Thank you to the Bad Magic Productions team for all the help in making Timesuck. Queen of Bad Magic, Lindsay Cummins, Reverend Dr. Joe Paisley, Sophie the Fact Sorceress Evans for running point on this week's research, Bit Elixir for continuously refining the Timesuck app, Logan the Art Warlock, Keith running badmagicmerch.com, being the visual artist for all things Bad Magic and working on our socials with Liz Hernandez, who runs our Cult of the Curious Facebook private page, along with the All-Seeing Eyes. Thanks also to Beefsteak and the Mod Squad running Discord. You can link to the Timesuck Discord group through the Timesuck app. Next week, we mix history and wackadoodle. We head back to the Common Era, to the first legitimate civilization on Earth known as Sumer in Mesopotamia. To explore the culture of the ancient Sumerians means we'll be celebrating some of the most amazing firsts in human history. Things we couldn't live without, like the first wheel, even the first fully expressed concept of time. So much more. The society came up with hundreds of concepts and systems we use today, from government, taxes, land and sea vehicles, literature. Not to mention perhaps the most important concepts, agriculture, the written word, beer. We'll also meet a few prominent people and or wackadoodles who say, amongst many other things, that the ancient Sumerian people were given all their groundbreaking knowledge of civilization and complex systems by extraterrestrials. More than 6,500 years ago, ancient aliens. Maybe it's giants. Story goes that aliens came here from a rogue planet called Nibiru that came into our solar system, or comes in, almost every 3,600 years. And these aliens, the Anunnaki, apparently came here to fuck with our DNA, throw some knowledge our way, and put us to work mining, above all things, gold. Why would aliens need us to mine gold for them? We will get to that, and so much more crazy. Next week, it's going to get goofy. It's going to get fun. Now let's head on over to this week's Timesucker updates.
Updates? Get your Timesucker updates.
Let's start with some laughs today. Recorded this in advance in preparation for a vacation, so no Dusseldorf emails yet. Sucker Josh gets Cummins lot. Josh writes, Dear Suckboy Master, John Bonjangles, wanted to let you know that you got me with the Cummins law. I was at my new job at less than a month, a quiet accounting office. I was working on a spreadsheet, listening to a random episode, I don't remember which one, when my Bluetooth headphones die, just as the master sucker declares loudly, and that's when he starts raping his sister. Nobody has said anything, but I am quite sure at least a few of my coworkers heard. This happened a few days after I thought to myself, I better be careful not to get Cummins law at work. Sigh. Thanks for making my workday short and weird. Best wishes, probably not Albert Fish. Everyone knows now, Josh. Everyone knows what you listen to, right? So I say just play everything out loud from now on. Poop hole, loophole, all the stuff. The damage is done. Lean into it. Now let's hear some gratitude and inspiration. From a solid Utah sucker, Matt Dougal. Matt writes, Hey, Dan, my name is Matt and I live in Utah. I've been a loyal listener since the beginning of this podcast, and even before I was a massive fan of your comedy. This is going to be a long message, but I just wanted to thank you for your years of comedy and this wonderful podcast you've created. You've impacted my life greatly and have done so much more for me, and for that I'm eternally grateful. It's been a really hard month for me, and your podcast has helped me laugh through these tough times I'm facing. I have some challenging mental health disabilities, some physical health challenges that don't make things any easier. I have autism and pretty severe anxiety and depression. The doctors think my heart is growing, and I've started to develop arrhythmia. 3 weeks ago, I got a CT scan of my sinuses because I've been coughing up blood, and they discovered a mass they think could be cancerous. I guess that's life sometimes. I got an assistance animal to suggestion of my wife, and through the help of my doctor and my therapist, I wanted to do the right thing and let my landlord know I was getting the support animal because I believe in living honestly. Well, my landlord decided that he doesn't want someone with my disabilities and my need for assistance animal on his rental property and told me I either need to get rid of my dog or leave his property. This really hurt me deeply and greatly stressed me out. Following night, my wife almost had to take me to the hospital for my safety because I wanted to kill myself. In the last 2 weeks, I have wanted to every single day. I guess I figured the only way out of this situation is if I'm not here anymore. If I didn't have these problems, the situation never would have happened. My therapist and my doctor told me what he was doing was illegal and that I'm supposed to be protected by the Fair Housing Act. Well, today he got an eviction lawyer involved, and both of them seem to think he's exempt from those laws and that he can discriminate however he wants. Now my medical bills are mounting up, and I need to find a new place to live. My wife doesn't deserve to go through this, and I can't stop thinking about how the problem in the equation is me. Even right now, as I'm writing this, the answer seems obvious, that I need to remove myself so everything can move on in a better way. Dan, your podcast has saved my life in the last few weeks. It's literally been one of my coping skills. Your humor and life outlook give me hope for myself. And I've heard about the other members of the Cult of the Curious make it through hard things in the Timesucker updates. And that gives me a small amount of hope that I can too. In my darkest moments recently, I've been religiously listening to your podcast. I'm a bit behind right now. I just finished the kidnapping of Patty Hearst, and I was almost in tears laughing about the communist bug references you made. Thank you for the laughter. I don't know how I'm going to get through this time in my life, but I know I can somehow. Thank you for giving me something to take my mind off the world and an escape from the problems I'm facing right now. Being discriminated against for my disabilities hurts and makes me feel worthless. I would never wish that on anybody. Thank you for your comedy. Thanks so much for creating this podcast. I said it before. I'll say it again. I'm eternally grateful for what you've done here. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I'm trying to wake up every day with courage. Hail Nimrod, you beautiful bastard. Keep on sucking for me, Matt. You keep waking up with courage, Matt. You beautiful bastard. Keep fighting, right? Because it's just better than any alternative, isn't it? I mean, you're far from worthless. You just wrote that message. You now know that someone, else is going to hear it too, that probably needs to hear it, and you'll have helped save them, and that is not worthless. And fuck that landlord, right? Just keep fighting just to spite that fucking landlord, if nothing else. Keep laughing. So many better days may be ahead, and your days right now will be better with more laughter. Things are bad, but at least they're not Vampire of Dusseldorf hitting you with a fucking hammer bad. At least you're not eating some Albert Fish's peanut butter. All right, your wife does need you. You got a dog who needs you right now. Don't let that little dog, you don't protect that dog. Well, then the next Vampire of Dusseldorf is going to come around and fuck it. Those people are out there. So just stay strong as best you can. Thanks for sending that message. That was very courageous. Love you, dude. Keep it moving. And now for a shout out from an OG sucker, Austin Stork. Austin writes, Hello, Bad Magic crew, but mostly Dan and Lindsay. My wife and I are OG Timesuckers. Have been huge Bad Magic fans since the very first few episodes of Timesuck. Whether it's laughing our asses off about the newest Timesuck or the Secret Suck episode, talking about what story spooked us the most from Scared to Death, or snuggling up on the couch every Wednesday night to watch the newest episode of Is We Dumb if you dummies can manage to figure out how to work the camera that week. Nice. Bad magic has clearly played a huge part of our lives. Our our 5-year wedding anniversary is coming up on August 13th this year. And if memory serves me right, this is also yours and Lindsay's 5-year wedding anniversary as well. It is. So as much as I want to congratulate you two on your 5 years together, congratulations. I also wanted to selfishly ask if I could get a big shout out to my wife, Erica, for our 5-year anniversary. She's my Polish monster, my Lucifina, my Albert Fish. Okay, not that last one. JK, gosh dang on my heck. Best wife ever, 3 out of 5 stars. Wouldn't change a thing. The past 5 years have been an incredible journey, and I love her so flippin' much. If you happen to read this on the show, thank you so much for doing so, and thanks for everything you do and everything at Bad Magic Productions, making this world a brighter place for many people. OG Bad Magician, Austin Stork. That was very nice, Austin. Happy anniversary, Austin and Erica. Happy 5 years. I hope you two are still in love as much as Lindsay and I are. After 5 years, may she always be your Lucifina. Hail love. Right? Love inspires love. Keep pushing it forward. Keep setting that example. Gosh dang. And, if you guys are into it, maybe loophole that poople. I don't know. Maybe do some chest talking. Spice it up. Now one more from Smart Sucker Sarah. Sarah writes, Hail Lucifina and all her minions. I said before that I will mention your podcast in my serial killers class. I also wanted to praise you for your TED Talk that will be making its way into my media class. I honestly have preached these ideas from the pulpit of my college podium for years. Have not really found a video that explains my feelings about the penny press and yellow journalism quite like you do. I'm not a political person. I will vote for whom I believe to be the best candidate, which has been hard in recent years. I struggle being at an extremely liberal college where I agree sometimes, but not always. We will put it this way. I am a conservative, gun-loving, country-loving gal with a big heart. I've always preached that socialism leads to communism, but there are attributes of socialism that are good and decent. I just don't want the D student doctor working on me and waiting months for MRIs or CAT scans. I hear you. So weird. So weird. Anywho, thank your perspective. It is hard these days to find that. My media class exposes a great deal of if it bleeds, it leads commentary. And I also have my students watch Nightcrawler. Fabulous. That is a great fucking movie. That's a really good movie, actually. I love that you use the word meat sacks as my favorite TV show of all time is Supernatural, and they use the term meat suits. I didn't know that. Keep on sucking and being you. My degree in psychology and your overall work is me to a T. Sarah, you made this dummy feel smart for a second. Thank you very much. Thanks for that. I'm glad you find a kinship in my perspective. It makes me feel less alone to hear it from you. So what I did for you, you just did for me. I hear you on politics. Yeah, I'm open to either side on any given election, and it often feels like I don't love any of my choices. But I will say things seem to be going pretty well right now overall for many, and that makes me happy. That's whoever's in, just have life appear to be getting better for many, and okay, on board. Glad our economy is doing a lot better than it was in Peter Curtin's time from last week. And I'm honored, that you used me in a class. Keep teaching. So important. Keep preaching common sense, critical thinking. The more you do, the better the world, for all of us. And so hail Nimrod, country gal. That's all for this week's Time Sucker Updates.
Thanks, time suckers. I needed that.
We all did.
Thanks for listening to another Bad Magic Productions podcast, Meat Sacks. Please crawl through any ex's, or please do not crawl through any ex's doggy door, or crawl naked into bed, hoping to get your poop hole loophole this week. Just keep on mouth hugging. I mean, sucking.
Bad Magic Productions.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Have you seen my spoon? Oh,
Your spoon?
that's my spoon.
No, I don't have a spoon. No.
No, that's my spoon.
No, I'm not holding a spoon. I'm not holding a spoon. I don't know what
Dan,
I don't have a spoon.
You're holding a spoon right now in your hand. You're tapping a spoon in your hand.
No, that's my finger. I have a metal looking finger.
No, it's a spoon.
Nope.
Can I see it for a second?
I would if I had a spoon, I'd give you a spoon.
Mine has the same handle.
If I had a
little
spoon,
fist on the bottom of the handle.
If I had a spoon, nope, no spoon. Don't have a spoon. Wish I did. Wish I could help you with the spoon.
Okay.
Wish I knew where a spoon was.
Oh, all right.
That Jodi Arias Jedi shit works sometimes.